Hey, Prime members, you can listen to Crime and Sports early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Download the app today.
In the depths of an Atlanta forest, a clash between activists and authorities ends in tragedy. I'm Matthew Scher, and on my new podcast, We Came to the Forest, we expose the hidden truths behind a shootout that left one activist dead and countless lives forever changed. Binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest ad-free on Wondery Plus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Crime and Sports.
Yay!
Yay, indeed, Jimmy. Yay, indeed. My name is James Petrogallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmy Wissman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us. Jimmy, your enthusiasm is well-founded because it's a wrestling episode today.
Hell yeah.
So you know how those go. They're going to be insane with brain damage and drugs and all sorts of fun stuff. And this is no different. We get to talk about some crazy stuff. An 80s, 90s wrestler, too. Not a wrestler of today.
Yeah.
The guys who really, we'll talk about it. This is a different breed. These are guys that were...
Guys I controlled on Sega Genesis.
This is a guy who would, go hang out with the Hells Angels after the matches. Shit like that. Different breed of people back then. So we'll talk all about that. First of all, though, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com because you are going to want tickets to Small Town Murder live shows.
Yes.
Rest of the year for sale, and they are selling out fast, too. They
really are.
I'm telling you, Boston sold out. It's in November, sold out already. Right. I think Minneapolis just about there. Yeah. Denver, San Diego. Tons. Get your tickets right now. Trust me.
Salt Lake,
Chicago,
we've expanded it.
Salt Lake, we expanded it. Yes, it's going to be the last time we're going to be able to do that this year, but we got a bigger venue, so we can get more people in there. So because it sold out in less than a day, so we felt terrible.
Crazy.
And people were honestly sending us angry messages about it. So we're like, Jesus. We'll figure it out. Okay, so there you go. Get your tickets. Shutupandgivememurder.com, and especially get your tickets for April the 20th, the 420 virtual live show.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I have so much stuff laid out for Jimmy to smoke weed out of that is going to blow his mind, that he's going to go, what is that? I don't even know what that is. It's going to be so much fun. That is Shut Up, and we're going to tell a great murder story just like a regular live show, but you're in your living room. So get that April 20th, and it's available for 7 days after that as well. So you can buy it then. You can watch it a bunch of times. Do whatever you want with it. Shutupandgivememurder.com. Patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all the bonus materials. And anybody $5 or above, you get tons and tons of back episodes of bonus stuff, almost hundreds.
Shitloads.
Over 100. So tons of those. And then every other week you get 2 new episodes. This week is no different. What you're going to get this week, because it's a wrestling episode that's going to tie into this, we're finally going to tackle this. Dark Side of the Ring did a great job on it, but we'll give our spin on it because theirs wasn't very funny. We'll say that. Not intentionally. We're going to talk about the death of Bruiser Brody, the murder of Bruiser Brody, really.
That was bad, yeah.
We'll talk about that, and a lot of people requested we talk about that. So we'll get into that, and then for Small Town Murder, we're going to have some fun after Jodi Arias filthed us up.
Yeah.
Filthed us all up. Filth, is that a word?
Filthed.
She filthed us all over last week. We're going to talk about haunted hotels. Something fun.
Great.
Yeah, so that's some fun shit we'll get into there. So
some places Jodi Arias took it in the asshole.
Well, I'm sure she did there, and all of these places. That's why they're haunted.
Yeah.
The haunting of Jodi Arias' asshole is going to...
Her asshole echoes
going to linger.
the halls.
Yeah, the specter of it is going to be everywhere. So that is patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all that. And you get a shout out at the end of the week where Jimmy's going to mess your name up pretty bad, but he's going to want to get it right. And then sometimes when you think he'll mess it up, he'll get it perfect sometimes.
It's crazy.
It's the weirdest thing in the world. So let's get into this. It's a wrestling episode. These are
terrific.
We only get them every, 2.5, 3 months because you got to space them out.
Yeah.
I'd love to do just wrestling episodes, but there would be, the show would have been over 7 years ago.
Yeah. And I'm grateful for this too because it's opened my eyes to the world of wrestling Twitter, which is fucking
amazing.
Magnificent.
It's
incredible.
Yeah, that's the thing. Wrestling is such a subculture, and wrestling fans are such a subculture, and then there's subcultures within the subcultures.
Right.
You know what I mean? As far as
there's
eras where people are real, it's almost like the Saber people with baseball, where they're like, I'm an expert in the dead ball era. I know everything about 1907 to 1913.
Oh, boy.
But that's how wrestling fans are. They have their areas of expertise, and it's a very interesting subculture.
There's still very little money to be made in it if you're not. It's again harkens back to
just
comedy.
like comedy. Yeah,
just
we've
like
said
comedy.
it a million times.
They've all got side hustles happening, or they go overseas or whatever.
You're running around with your merch.
OnlyFans.
You're running these indie wrestlers. They run around with their merch with all this shit, just like a regular comic. Unless you're a headliner that's actually can draw a crowd, then you'll make some money. But you know that's rare.
I root for all of them. It's incredible.
Absolutely, yeah. We know a couple of wrestlers, so we definitely root for them, and we like that. We always hear that wrestlers listen to the show. Wrestlers like the show because wrestlers have that kind of sense of humor.
Yeah,
where
I get it.
It's like wrestlers listen to this, and like, you know, homicide detectives tend to like small town murder too because they have that dark sense of humor, and you know, emergency room nurses tend to really like small town murder, things like that. So we'll get into this with a guy who, man, he's a guy who kind of fascinated me as a kid because he was so shitty, but big, and he always felt like he was gonna be good and never really captured it.
Never popped.
Just based on his physicality. As an 8-year-old, I was like, that guy's huge and scary looking. He should be amazing. And it didn't quite work. You'll know him by a different name here, but John Eric Nord is his name.
Nord.
3 4-letter words. John Eric Nord. It's so simple. And
12 letters gets the whole thing.
All 3 of his names are 1 letter longer than my last name, which you don't know how much I envy that. That's so easy. That's so easy. So yeah, John Eric Nord, John Nord. Later on, he's Nord the Barbarian in AWA and Mid-South, and he is the Berzerker in WWF. Do you remember that guy?
I do not.
He was like a Viking, I guess you could say, in the early 90s.
Nord, he's built for it.
And he'd yell, huss, huss, huss all the time. You remember that guy?
No.
Big long hair. He wore a fucking helmet with horns on it and everything.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you know, your typical Viking.
Typical Viking.
There's a story about how he became this Viking character, which is hilarious.
How did he pick all 3 identical words for that?
John Eric Nord.
Yeah.
So John Nord, he's born October 18th, 1959. There seems to be multiple sources have multiple different places of birth for old John Nord here.
Really?
I hear he's from Bozeman, Montana is where he's born. Okay. But either way, he grows up in the Minneapolis area.
Got it.
He's one of the guys that goes to high school in Robbinsdale with Kurt Hennig and Hawk and, you know, Rick Rude. Name all the wrestlers of the 80s and early 90s, and he went to high school with all of them and played football with all of them. He's one of those guys. We'll talk about the more of the Minnesota lineage in here too. So yeah, he talks. He's a great interview nowadays, by the way, which is funny because his brain's fucked up. He boozes. He does drugs. We'll talk about. Yeah. He's a mess, but he still is a great interview. He's one of these guys that doesn't have. They ask him a question. He doesn't think, how do I phrase this to not piss anybody off? He just goes, that guy sucks. What are you talking about? He's terrible. He's not so tough, like shit like that. He's just fun.
What you're saying is he's honest.
Very honest. Very honest. He's like an older guy who just doesn't care anymore. And he's just, what do I care? I don't give a fuck what the guy says.
He's not selling the brand anymore. He's
just
being him.
Not at all. But as kids here, he talks about going to school with all these guys. Yeah. And, you know, you think your high school was tough. Whatever high school you went to, you go, there's some tough kids there. You didn't have Rick Rude and Hawk and fucking Nord and Scott Norton and Smash from Demolition, Barry Darso. Like, these are humongous, gigantic, tough, badass people, and they're all in the same high school. And I'm like, that is fucking mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling.
We had some Arabic guys that were giant. Their whole family was huge, and that was our football team. And they were
that was our football. The one family, one Arabic family.
Pretty much.
That's what they are.
Arabic family and a guy named Gutierrez. That's all we had.
Yeah.
No, he was. I think was he the center? He may have been. No. Coach Sueda's son was center. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. They were all the fucking line. They were gigantic. But we only had one running back that was any good, and he was hurt in the 5th game and then didn't play for the rest of the season. So They went 5-0, then 0-5.
It's remarkable to me that when we talk about sports that you've watched, you don't remember things that you've definitely witnessed, that you've definitely seen, famous things that you've seen video clips of 30 times, but yet you can recall when your high school football team's running back, what game of the season he was hurt.
Yeah.
And, what is happening, Jimmy?
I don't know.
Can we talk to your therapist about that part? See what's up with that. Never mind the rest of it.
There's something very fascinating that happened in there.
But not with
ruined.
like
it's
Super Bowls or anything like
Yeah.
that. None of that sticks at all.
Nothing sticks. It's all full of very inconsequential shit.
That is fascinating. I love it.
And it matters to nobody. I can tell.
Not even to you. That's the thing. If it mattered to you, it'd be one thing. But this doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to you at all.
Spit out the
You can let
varsity
go of that
football
info.
teams.
You need to take it like a dandelion and relinquish yourself of that info. You'll never need it
If
again.
only. Oh my God.
And we'll replace it with good things.
Work on that, Apple. How do I fucking erase this shit?
Yeah, that'd be better.
I wish
come up
somebody
with
goes,
some technology.
what's your varsity team's record your senior year? I don't know. I'd
Beats
love
the
to
shit out
say
of me.
that.
The only thing, literally the only thing I remember about my high school's football team is on homecoming week in, I think, my junior year, a kid got stabbed almost to death, like on the field. Like,
I would much rather have that.
and the principal came and took his John Jay High School jersey off and stuffed it over the wound until the paramedics got there and saved him. He got stabbed deep. It was bad. Yeah.
It's a much better story than Gutierrez was one of the guards.
And it was some Arabic kid got hurt. Game 5.
The Sages and Gutierrez. What? Who cares?
What the fuck? Oh, man. So I guess it'd be more interesting if the kids we went to high school with were famous professional wrestlers.
If they
later.
mattered.
Nobody I know did anything.
If I went to high school with an entire Raw cast, that would be so much cooler.
Yeah,
Didn't do it.
I went to high school with a comic that I know that's that's successful. Other
doing
than
very
that,
well, yeah.
nobody else at all.
I went to high school for 1 year with an NBA player. Outside of that, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. No,
Nothing else matters.
As Metallica once told us.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, they also told us sad but true.
Which is also a fact, yeah.
Very factual.
And nothing else matters. When the Arab kid got hurt. Oh. We went 5-5. Oh, nothing else matters.
It was so promising because the football team was so bad for still terrible, still never won, and 5-0. Everybody was jacked, and then he goes down, and it's all over.
It's all over, man.
We suck again.
Here we are. So these kids didn't suck, probably.
No, yeah, I'm sure they're good at everything.
Yeah, so I guess Hawk from Road Warriors there, I guess he went to the next high school over in that area. So he tells a story about, he goes, yeah, everybody used to fight because he's asked in this interview, like, were these guys ever getting in fights, these big fucking crazy tough guys?
You'd think so.
And he goes, I mean, sometimes. He goes, but, we're high school kids, so people get in scraps, and it's not a big deal. In high school, it's not a big deal when you get in a scrap. So he told a story about they were in a McDonald's parking lot, and Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect here, runs up, and Hawk is in his car with his window 3/4 down, and Kurt Hennig just ran up and punched him in the face through the fucking window.
Wow.
And then, took off somewhere, and then Hawk chased him, and I'm like, that is amazing. People would have paid money to see that, or it could have been on TV, but this was just in a McDonald's parking lot.
That's like a lead up on Raw.
Yeah.
They show that and then they go, and now they're going to wrestle him.
Yeah, and then to the main event tonight, these two, and Hawk is pissed. Let me tell you, knocked the Big Mac right out of his fucking hand. Special
America's favorite
sauce all
fries,
over.
you guys, all over.
All over him. Here is, I don't know how true this is, but it really doesn't matter. Who cares? In a comment on one of his interviews, there's a comment here, and it's on a YouTube video, said, quote, "I played junior high football with John Nord at Robbinsdale Junior High. Team was so bad, John and I had to play both offense and defense. He towered over us and had more muscle." We'll talk about why. "He's a gentle giant, and luckily he didn't have a bad temper. Good man. I went to a different high school and lost touch. Nord and his friend John invited me to lift weights after practice at Egan's house," whoever that is, "after they saw I had heart. Nord made you feel good to be around him. God bless you and your family, Berzerker." So there you go. Somebody liked him. Yeah, he's a huge guy. He's about 6'5.5", he says.
Jesus.
They always bill him in wrestling as 6'7", 6'8", because that's wrestling,
Right.
And they wear the boots that have, he gives them an extra couple inches.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. He's gigantic.
Sure.
And he's a big, muscular, giant, fucking thick dude. I mean, he just looks like a guy where you go, Jesus Christ, look at that fucking guy. He's just a big guy. And part of that is, in high school, he started taking steroids.
Is that right?
In high school, yes. He said
Holy.
him and a bunch of guys went down to Tijuana from Minnesota, first of
That's
all.
a long ride.
That's a trip, man. That's not like
Jesus
going from
Christ.
Phoenix. That's another story.
That's an all-day trip from Phoenix.
Yeah,
Jesus
that's
Christ.
I mean, from Phoenix, that's a pain in the ass. You're like, I don't want to go all the way down there. San Diego, it's convenient, but nowhere else.
That's 3-4 days, right?
Oh, that's a lot.
From fucking Minnesota?
I don't know if it was spring break or what, but he said that's when he first bought 5 milligrams of Dianabol, and which is testosterone. And Jose Canseco talks about it a lot. And he said he didn't know what it was. He was just taking it, and it makes you feel, because it's steroids, so it makes you feel energetic and strong and great and invincible, and And he said, "quote I thought this stuff was like a vitamin. I didn't know what it was." He just thought it was. Yeah, you pop one of these, you feel great.
They got him in pill form?
I don't know. You inject one of these, you feel great, or whatever.
Whichever way.
Well, back then, people got B12 shots all the time and shit. It was common. Common all the time. It was very common. So. That to say, I didn't even know what it was. It was just, I thought it was like a vitamin.
Jeez. Berserk is a good name for this, man. That's out of control.
Oh, he's
man.
Berserk. This, it's wild to just go, wow, this is a great vitamin. I gained 30 pounds in the last 6 months. All muscle.
What a vitamin. I'll drive from Minnesota to Mexico for that shit.
You got to try this stuff. Holy shit. Oh, my goodness.
He drove from Minnesota to Mexico on the idea that this shit is he had no idea how great it was going to be for him either.
We never find out. His stories are very succinct and to the point. I feel like maybe the years and the brain damage and the alcohol and the drugs have kind of burned off the perimeters of these stories as far as like picture a photo. But like,
great way to put it.
It's just fringes. Picture a photo
with a lighter.
The middle's still there, but the edges are burned. It's been in a fire, and that's the story.
They're a little dusty out there.
So you get the whole kernel. Whole kernel, but there's no peripheral shit. Like, there was not like me and this guy, man. It was spring break, and we were like, we should go to Tijuana. We were going to go here, but we decided none of that shit. He goes, went to Tijuana when I was 17 with some guys, and bought 5 milligrams of Dianabol, and it was great. I don't know. It was like
Greatest
a vitamin
I ever took.
I don't know what it was. That's the whole story.
Sir, I have questions.
And you go, all right, then. Well, I guess that's the story.
And we just move on?
Yeah.
Who the fuck got that story out of him that didn't go, no.
There's
breaks and back up.
That's another thing is wrestling interviewers.
Yeah.
The guys
You can't do that, right?
Well, the guys that interview wrestlers now that do like because now like it's not really shoot interviews anymore. It's all shoot. Nobody stays in character while they're doing a fucking interview. It's not on television. Half the time, even on the show that they're on, they're not in character.
Yeah.
So, they're never going to fucking be in character. So can't really call it that. But the guys that interview the old school guys now, Sean Oliver, obviously we've talked about him from kayfabe commentaries. He's like, it's the difference between shooting a bullet and throwing one is like how good he is at it and how terrible everybody else is at it. It's like that.
He's been around wrestlers long enough to know how to lead them to the water to drink, right?
Exactly. It's like other crime sports shows that podcasts. Like, no, not to be dicks, but there's been a bunch of people that have tried, and they're like, we're 100 times better than they are. And these are from two people who have no self-esteem. You listen to those shows and go, holy shit, this makes me feel great. What a piece of shit this is. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Those shows sucked, all of them. So, but yeah, this guy going down, wow, that's wild. So he's right succinct, though, so nobody asks really follow-up questions that much because it's not really conversational. They'll ask a question and then kind of let but also, they're also not trying to, the guys that don't try to inject themselves into it, I respect that. They ask a question, they let the guy answer it how he wants to answer it, and I guess they're thinking, well, I'm not a homicide detective. I don't need to fucking grill him more. That's how much he wants to say. I'll ask him the next question. So at least they're not inserting themselves, which
I would probably just lead them off track so far that now we don't know why we got here or why we're telling this story.
Oh, we would, if we had a guy on, we would fucking, we'd be talking about everything else but what happened. We're like, no, seriously, so now you wrestled. Okay, that's right. Yeah, let's go back to that. Because we were talking about
a guy named Gutierrez that also played left guard.
When the running back, were you the running back? Did you get hurt in your junior year? Any chance?
How's your calf?
Oh, man. So, guy that does a bunch of interviews with John Nord is this Hannibal guy. Has a bunch of, he does tons of wrestling interviews, and he's one of those guys. He's terrible at interviewing, but he keeps him. He doesn't insert himself into it. He asks a question, they answer it, and he asks another question. Yeah. So I respect that. He does a good job. So anyway, here's Nord. He plays obviously football in high school, like we heard, and he had a chance to go to BYU, apparently, according to him. Yeah, he was going to go to BYU to play football.
Salt Lake.
Yeah, and he blew it, though, because he apparently asked the coach, Lavelle Edwards, who is like a legend at BYU, he said, "What's with all this fucking Mormon stuff around here?"
Well,
when he came for the recruitment visit, and they were like,
on home.
"Well, that's kind of that's everything, really. That's what it is." That's.
Let me tell you what the B and the Y stand for.
Yeah. What you've just described is Utah. So. I don't know. That's where the school isn't planning on moving.
Square here that everything inside it, that's what it is.
Yeah. It's the beehive state. That's for a reason. It's a hive of activity in there. So lots of door knocking going on. They must have knocked on all the doors in Utah by now, right?
You'd think, right?
Because when someone moves into Utah, like if a new resident comes in, are they knocking each other over, fighting as the U-Haul pulls up to the curb? Can we help you with that couch, ma'am? Have you heard the good word? Like,
at this time, though, there's not one person that's going to ask when they move to Utah, what's with all the Mormon shit?
No,
right?
no. In the 70s.
But everybody knows, right?
Yeah. Oh, today. Now they do. Yeah, today. In the 70s, I still go there and I go, what's with all this fucking Mormon shit? That's the weird part. Even though I know when I go there and land, I still do that.
Give you credit, Utah. That city, that Salt Lake is clean as shit, but holy fuck.
It's clean, all right. Yeah, it's pretty.
You've cleansed it.
You've cleansed it of just about everything. Yeah. Just about everything. Had the worst roast beef sandwich of my life in Salt Lake City.
Oh, it's clean though, James.
But that was the thing. I think the roast beef was scrubbed clean, unfortunately. Didn't smell like beef anymore. Like my mother's chicken, bleached. I think that was Small Town Murder. We talked about that. My mother used to put big dishwashing gloves on and fucking wash and bleach chicken before she cooked it. Can't be good. It's like, what are you doing? Jesus. Saw a thing on TV about salmonella.
As a child, that would fucking freak me out, but as an adult,
what are you doing?
That's the fucking scariest meat that exists.
I thought she was poisoning us. I don't know what was happening. So Nord ends up going to play offensive tackle at Montana State.
Oh.
That's where he is. Now, he also, once he's done with college, he ends up playing in the USFL.
Is that
which
right?
I had no idea he was in the USFL. He played for the New Jersey Generals, as a matter of fact, which was my fucking team as a kid.
Yeah.
Fucking loved them, and he played for them. He talked about he was offensive tackle, and he said, like, I'm not even going to, I was just second string as it gets. Like, he said, I didn't play shit. He was like a special teamer, pretty much. He didn't do anything, and you wouldn't know, especially as a 5-year-old, I wouldn't have known backup offensive tackles very well, probably. So,
yeah, as an adult, I don't.
Yeah, it's Jesus, but you know that running back. I'll tell you that much. So he said that he played with Herschel Walker, who was the big star who came to the U. He was the biggest star to come to the USFL. He was like going to be, well, because he came out early to play for the USFL, but eventually he would have been, obviously the number 1 overall pick, no problem. And instead he went and played here. So it was a big deal. Nord says about Herschel, quote, he had a heart of gold. He'd look at me and say, beer man, you taking care of yourself? Like, he called him beer man because he drank beer.
Okay.
And he said the answer was usually no. Also, he said, no, I was never taking care of myself.
Herschel called him beer man?
Beer man, yeah, because I guess he drank a lot of beer because he's from Minnesota.
Herschel.
Yeah. Herschel, I can't imagine Herschel's going to give out the most fucking salient nicknames.
Well thought out.
Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. So he says he really upped his steroid intake when he was with the Generals, too, because, he was in New York. They were available. Sure. He could get them. Right, he said, quote, I could get them from Mark Gastineau and Joe Klecko of the Jets.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Our old friend, Mark Gastineau. Remember him? He's got an episode, everybody, if you want to go back there.
For little girls.
Yeah, that's all. Oh, Jesus, it's a problem. So he said, when I was playing for, this is great, the way he says this, there's never I like Nord because he doesn't put any faux emotion on anything. Like, he's not like, when someone asks him about steroids, he doesn't go, I did it and I shouldn't have taken it and blah, blah, blah. He says, and I'm going to act just like he acted, he goes, when I was playing football, I was taking, and I think he said Anavar. I don't fucking know. I was taking Anavar. That stuff was great. That's exactly how he said it. That stuff was great. Like, he was like, man, fucking
it works.
Rock and roll. Like, horns up and woo, rock and roll. All right. Woo.
That's the best rock and roll thing ever said.
That is amazing. That stuff was great.
All right.
He's just jamming muscles into himself.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say grace at that point.
Right there.
He's getting, because his wrestling career really doesn't amount to a pile of shit. No. I mean, compared to a lot of guys, don't get me wrong, he was in every major organization, but he was 6'5" and weighed 300 pounds, so he's going to be hired. But in the ring, he is goddamn terrible. I mean,
just dog shit.
Oh my God, man. Just fucking dog shit. He ends up being kind of a Bruiser Brody knockoff, but Bruiser Brody had an edge to him that this guy doesn't have. He just doesn't have the charisma of a Bruiser Brody.
Brody would have been such a fucking star, man.
Well, yeah, he was a star. He was a worldwide star.
Fuck, dude, it would have been crazy.
He's but Brody had an air about him where he came out and everybody. Your head turns. You look at him, and he's just one of these guys that he looks fucking insane. People don't know if he's like, is this guy really nuts or what? Like, he was one of those guys. Whereas this guy seemed like just kind of a guy who's being a wrestler, which is fine. I mean, no one expects you to be Bruiser Brody. You don't have to be. Like, there's not a lot of Bruiser Brodys running around.
Brody
so
could have
he did
showed
fine.
up to signings on motorcycles for the rest of his life and been a fucking star.
Right now, he would have been crushing it in that on the convention circuit and all that. He would be a huge star on that circuit.
So likable. Not even likable. Fucking lovable.
Plus, he was a good, he was a booker and everything else, too. So, I mean, he'd probably still be like a Jake the Snake or something. He'd probably be still, I don't know how old he would be now. Might be too old for it, but he would have
70s.
been. Yeah, he would have been at least working for a long time behind the scenes in places if he wanted to, and until he quit because Brody
depending on how hard he kicked his own ass.
Well, Brody didn't. Brody didn't fucking mess himself up like that.
No,
he wasn't. No. Brody wasn't a drug guy or any of that shit.
He would have had longevity all through it, huh?
Brody would get done and he'd go back to his hotel room, call his wife, and eat tuna fish. like out of the can. That was the kind of guy he was. He'd party with the boys too and have some beers and stuff, but he wasn't like one of these fucking,
lunatics.
He was cheap. He'd want to save all his money and send it home, and he was
that.
more of a family man. Yeah, that's how I would be.
Yeah,
that's how I am. What do we do after the show? I'm going to go back there and get some food, and I'm going to call Sarah, and that's my fucking night.
Yeah.
I'm not hanging out. I'm going to call my wife and eat some food here. What the hell?
Yeah.
Smoke some weed and go to sleep.
And then I go
Do
back
the same
and
thing.
sleep. Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
Nothing much.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. I'm going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles.
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
Sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit.
At the time, I was paranoid.
Threats.
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
And murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
So, Grace here, we'll call this. Mm-hmm. His family, by the way, he's married, and I think he's still married, which is wild.
Is that right?
So, when you hear about what he's does in the last 20 years, you go, how the fuck between wrestling and this? I don't know. And he said his wife's like, from what I can gather, his wife seems like a pretty normal person because he says like during the 80s when he's kind of going in and out of different territories and his money's fluctuating a lot. He said, I could do that because it was easier on me because my wife had a regular job and a stable job. So he had like health insurance and a home and shit. He wasn't like trying to manage a 1-bedroom apartment while he's on the road. And
it's not surprising that he kept that life together if he's not going too far off the rails with drugs and such, because there is a safety net in that you do not want to fuck up.
Well, no, he stretches that net to its absolute breaking point.
To its tightest.
Wait till you hear some of his quotes. They're like,
oh boy.
He's so casual about stuff. It's hilarious. So he also has a son named Joe, who's a wrestler now. He's wrestling. He's wrestling somewhere as a wrestler too. He was like a college wrestler and all that we'll talk about there. He wrestled for the University of Minnesota, actually. Right. So he breaks into wrestling kind of as he's washing out of football.
Okay.
I think it was 83 and part of 84 he played for the Generals. Mm-hmm. So he gets into wrestling. Another thing, too, for the wrestling nerds out there that, and I count myself amongst you. So I'm not, when I say that, I'm not being shitty because I know I can say, oh, you're wrestling nerds, but then I'll rattle off shit that I shouldn't know. So trust me, I'll rattle off about a high school running back's wrestling style, though. It's different. So it says in a lot of John Nord's, pretty much every profile of him that he was trained by Eddie Sharkey, but and Eddie Sharkey trained a ton of guys, but he specifically says he wasn't trained by Eddie Sharkey. So I'm going to go with what he says over what, is just in a profile somewhere. So out of his mouth, he said he went to Brad Rangan's wrestling camp. Mm-hmm. And Brad Rangan's, we've talked about him a little bit before. He was an Olympic wrestler, supposed to be on the 80 team when we boycotted. So Yeah, he didn't get to do that, but he's an Olympic guy, and he was an Olympic trainer for the Olympians coming up, and he wrestled for Vern Gagne for a long time, and he was a jobber for WWE. But he wrestling for Gagne, they really tried to make him something because Vern Gagne loves that amateur stuff, but he's a short guy who has like kind of shortish arms and wrestles very amateur style and has no personality whatsoever, and is just no facial expressions and boring. He's not going to be a star kind of guy, but technically knows really what he's doing and a good trainer. And I think he started training Vern's guys when Vern kind of got a little bit older, because Vern was training them through the 70s, but I think Vern kind of eased off of that, and Rangens became his trainer in the early 80s. So I guess Kurt Hennig, whose dad is Larry the Axe Hennig, who was a star in AWA for 20 years, he hooked him up with Brad Rangens in the wrestling camp. And you look at John Norton, you go, this guy looks like a fucking wrestler. I mean, Jesus Christ, he's enormous.
He's giant.
And also, it turns out that his father-in-law, his wife's father, obviously, was Vern Gagne's best friend in high school in 1943.
That'll help tremendously.
That's going to help a lot. And Vern really liked the guy and thought highly of him. And, so that is a big deal with that. Take care of my son-in-law type of thing. And he'll later say, and this is pretty funny, because Vern is known for, he's a tough boss. He's known as a tough boss. He's a pain in the ass. He fires people all the time. He said, Nord said, quote, Vern would never fire me. I no-showed some shows that other guys would have definitely gotten fired for, but he wouldn't fire me.
Show.
Yeah.
The whole event.
Several of them, which was common in the late days of the AWA. But
is that right?
He also couldn't fire him, A, because he knew his father-in-law, but B, by the late days of the AWA, he was the biggest guy he had. He needed bodies, and he needed a giant body, made him look legitimate, so he couldn't really fire him. So tons of wrestlers, though, from Minnesota, as we've talked about. But we'll go through a few of them here.
Yeah.
Vern Gagne, number one, obviously. He's the guy who started it all. Bob Backlund's a Minnesota guy, Princeton, Minnesota, who was champ for WWE champ for 5 straight years there. Kurt Hennig, obviously, is... I think he's my favorite of all time, probably. Worker of all. Yeah, I love Kurt Hennig. I love the way he does his thing. I love, he's a great heel. He's a real prick. I like him. I like a heel. I like a good heel.
A good bad guy.
I like a good bad guy. Yeah. I like a guy who knows how to draw the booze.
And good at his role.
That's fun.
That matters. If you're selling how much of a piece of shit you are and you're really not like that, that's pretty impressive.
And the heels are usually the best guys too. Everybody says the guys who are the heels back in the day. Those are usually the cool guys. The guys.
But it's a bummer too. That
I want to be cheered.
When people fall in love with that guy,
yes,
then they have no choice to make that guy a good guy,
to turn
like the Undertaker
or Roddy Piper.
Roddy Piper.
That was the big one in the 80s that they had to turn because he was just so fucking. He's
so
just
great.
Overwhelming,
Fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Rick Rude, also obviously from there. Jesse Ventura from Minneapolis. Hawk, Nikita Koloff is another guy that went to school with them as well. So that's one there. Nikita Koloff. No, he was big in the 80s, and then he had a reality show in like 2010 where it was like him and his like 4 daughters or something, and now he's like a pastor or some shit. There's a lot of like religion mixed in with it, like even in the title, there's like a cross in it and shit.
Really?
Like I remember trying to watch like 10 minutes of it. And it was just like, let's talk to the girls about Jesus more. And I was like, okay, I'm not watching this shit. So Ole Anderson's from up there as well. Greg Gagne, obviously Vern's son. Buddy Rose, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell from the Killer Bees, and Scott Norton. Remember Scott Norton from like Nitro, big thick guy there. Sean Waltman, X-Pac, fucking
love him.
Jerry Lynn, Brad Rangens, Wild Bill Irwin, Barry Darso, Smash, Nails, who we'll talk about later, Tom Zenk, Mike Enos, fucking Wayne Bloom, those guys, Doug Summers. There's a fucking rock and roll Buck Zumhoff who's. I want to go back and listen to that episode.
Real piece of shit.
Real piece of shit. So just tons of guys. You go through the list, and it's fucking even Brady Boone, who I thought was from the Northwest, but I guess not. Gene Anderson, Paul Ellering, the manager of the Road Warriors. Holy shit! Good God, I'm going through. Ric Flair grew up there. Holy shit! There's so many guys from up there. It's ridiculous. From no other area in the world has this many wrestlers. I get that Vern Gagne was culling them, but still,
Minnesota
so many
breeds
good ones.
a hardy folk. It's
Yeah.
such a great place.
It is. They're fucking one of my honestly Minnesota. When you go there, we're going to be there in August, and I'm super excited for that. We have
the hottest time of the year, and we get to be in
Minnesota and Chicago back to back, and Chicago in August is great too. So
did we bitch hard enough on this show
finally.
that the Joes took care of us?
Finally, yeah, because usually it's like, well, let's put you in New Orleans in July, and then what do you think, November 29th for Chicago? That sound good? Great. Minneapolis, January 3rd. Excellent.
Don't worry, we'll make it real easy to get to New Orleans by putting you in Orlando and Tampa the next night.
It'll be great. So that's what happens there. You have lots of hardy guys from up there. He talks about the influence of Bruiser Brody on his career as well, because if you look at him when he's Nord the Barbarian, he just looks like Bruiser Brody.
Yeah.
Which that's the shit though. Bill Watts made him look like that because Bruiser Brody would come and go, and he was like, "I'll make my own Bruiser Brody, goddammit." Because that's how Bill Watts is. Fuck that guy. He's gonna goddamn come in here and hold me up for more money and leave in the middle of the program. I'll go to
Japan
make my own
in the middle of this trip. What the fuck?
What is up with that? So he said, this is an interview with Bill Apter, who's kind of king of the old wrestling magazines. He says, quote, Bruiser Brody became a really good friend of mine about a month after I broke into Japan. He trained me. He broke me in. I was young, and he was my mentor. This sounds like not wrestling.
No,
Let's
it
just say
doesn't.
that.
It sounds like some hardcore.
This sounds like when I got into the gay porn industry, I was
He really
scared.
turned me out.
But he took good care of me. I got to tell you, he broke me in. He trained me. He made my butthole both an entrance and an exit, and for that I appreciate it.
Really turned me out, like
really,
inside.
Really inside out.
Inside out.
He said, I think he did it because I treated him with respect, you know? Brody didn't like guys that were cocky. He liked ex-athletes, ex-football players, because Brody's an ex-college football player. Yeah. And that's what he is. And that's what Vern Gagne liked, too. He liked athletes. He liked, college, high school wrestlers. He liked football players. He liked guys like that because Vern played football and wrestled. Right. So he was, he liked guys who were real athletes. That was his thing. He didn't so much like the artist type. That's why he never really had any respect for Hulk Hogan, because he was a baseball player and a musician. So he's like, what the fuck is that?
Did the Minnesota group with Vern go to Tennessee a lot, too? Was that a popular place for them?
Not in their circuit, but they were hooked up with Tennessee, actually. Okay, they were hooked up with the Tennessee group down there with Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett's group, the Memphis group. They were hooked up with them a lot. And in the late 80s, as they were dying, they kind of almost formed one unit, and they made Jerry Lawler their heavyweight champion and all that kind of shit. So
I wondered that because that draft pick for the Grizzlies. No, he didn't play. He ended up
Lorenzen Wright.
Yeah, his middle name is Vern.
His middle name is Vern Gagne.
Vern Gagne.
One word.
Yeah, I was like,
one word.
How the fuck does that even happen?
Lorenzen Vern Gagne Wright is his fucking name.
And that's why, because they were always there, and that had to be somebody's favorite wrestler.
But it had to be like his dad's or somebody like
not
that.
Not his, obviously, because
probably
he was
not.
Too young.
I would say he was definitely. You don't give yourself a middle name either. Your parents.
That's the other point.
Yeah.
You don't come out and be like, I love Vern Gagne.
He seems to have taken to that old bald man. Let's give him that as a middle name. It has to be from your parents.
As a crying ass slap bottom infant, really loves Vern Gagne.
Into Vern Gagne and his shit.
Now it makes sense.
Now it all makes sense. So he said that he was a booker, meaning Bruiser Brody. He was a booker for the Von Erichs back in '87, and he got me in there because he came in for a little while to work in Texas. Nord got the last remnants of the territorial thing. Like the territories were dying, like as he left them, they would fall behind him like dominoes. You know what I mean? Like he left World Class kind of folded after that. They were around for a couple more years, but it wasn't even the same. Yeah. And, it wasn't the same at all. So he'd go to these places as they were dying, as all the territories were dying. He'll go to Portland as it's dying. Mm-hmm. He'll watch the... He'll listen to the death rattle of the AWA as that happens later on.
I mean, he's buying low. He's treating it like penny stocks.
Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Trying hard.
buy low. You never know. If it doesn't work out, you throw it out.
You got to get into bottom floor, ground floor shit. And when it goes through the roof, we're all going to get paid.
Yeah, if it's already all fucked out, what are you going to do?
Yeah, been here since it was shit. They own me.
So he said that he worked against Bruiser Brody probably 6 or 7 times down there. Mm-hmm. He said that early in his career, he worked, this when he's in Mid-South, and we'll talk about that with Bill Watts there. He worked in a tag team match at the Superdome, and Muhammad Ali was in the match. This was after the first WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. And he said, quote, he told me, I know how it works. He told me, I know how it works. Like,
he spoke to him.
Yeah. Well, they were in the match together. He had to. But Ali had done WrestleMania already, so he told him, like, hey, listen, I'm smartened up here. Like, I get that this isn't real. And he said Nord said, he hit me, and I staggered around and fell. I should have had my picture taken him, but all I cared about was getting to Bourbon Street. It was in New Orleans.
I would not give a fuck about booze.
Nope. See,
that's amazing.
He's like, I got to get to Bourbon Street. Fuck taking a picture with Muhammad Ali. So he starts.
Incredible.
He bangs around in AWA a little bit when he starts here in '85-ish, but he gets sent down to Mid-South. What Vern Gagne would do is, if he thought you were worth half a shit, he would send you somewhere to get better. That way, when you came back, you'd be good enough for him to use you in an elevated position. He didn't want to, because if you sucked real bad the whole time, he couldn't make you be a star. So he would send you away to get better. Go suck down there and then come back.
And Vern gets paid for that too, huh?
Oh, he'll take a cut. Yeah, Vern will take a cut of that. Vern would try to take cuts of a lot of people's money, apparently. Jim Brunzell paid Vern Gagne fucking 10% of his money for a decade after he left. Yeah, and nobody else did except for him pretty much. So he said that he sent him down there, but he said he told Bill Watts to take care of him. He said, hey, take care of him. Like, don't just job him out. Don't just have him be beaten, be a schlub. Like, teach him stuff, because I'm going to actually use him as something.
I need this one back.
I need this. Yeah, don't break my toy, please. So he said that his first day, in Mid-South, he wore Jimmy Garvin's boots out there. So he didn't even have his own wrestling boots. He said they were too small for him, but he wore them anyway.
Oh, God.
Jimmy Garvin is nowhere near the size of John Nord, by the way. Yeah. If you don't know who that is, Jimmy Garvin is maybe 6 feet tall. Maybe. He's a smaller guy.
Nothing worse than wearing too small of shoes.
Imagine to wrestle, too.
Oh, God.
God damn. I guess that would make you mean. You'd be like, all the time because your feet are killing you.
Pissed off because my toenails are in my ankles.
My toes! You'd be so angry. Bill Watts gave him the barbarian gimmick. Told him, you're going to be the barbarian. Told him to fucking, get your head shaved up. Had him kind of look like Hawk. Had him shave his head like Hawk. And he said Jake the Snake took him to get his head shaved, Jake the Snake Roberts. And he said he was hanging out with Jake the Snake Roberts a lot when he first got there. He said, well, that was a party, obviously. Sure. We've done a Jake episode. We know all about that. Good. Not good at all here. So he tells him to, he gets the fur and all that kind of shit. Because John, when he's Nord the Barbarian, he'll wear much like Bruiser Brody, like that fur vest.
Yep.
That vest of fur and the fur around the boots. You know what I mean? The fur that goes all the ankle
fur,
ankle fur. like a leg warmer, like a nice leg warmer around your boot. Yeah, supposed to look like you've killed an animal with your bare hands and made a pelt fucking vest out of it.
Into something to protect your toes
because you're a barbarian.
Right.
That's how that goes. Well, the boots don't go. The fur doesn't go on the foot part, only on the calf part, which is the weird thing. It's not a fur boot. It's just like a leg warmer, which is hilarious. Let's get physical. Think of that next time you look at a footage of it. It's very silly. So here is he gets in a big brawl.
Yeah.
Apparently with Butch Reed.
At
Butch,
a bar?
No.
Oh.
No. God, no. This is around wrestling. Now, Butch Reed, if you don't know, Butch Reed's a big black guy. He was in the WWF under the natural Butch Reed, where he had blonde hair. The natural blonde hair. Get it? Haha. Yeah. And he was also in WCW later. He was a member of Doom with Ron Simmons and all that. Yeah. He's a very respected kind of famous guy here. So Nord gets in a fight with him, a physical fight with him.
Yeah.
And this is from Jim Ross's telling here. of the fight because Jim Ross worked backstage at Mid-South while this was going on.
He's terrific.
Yeah. He says John Nord the Barbarian, and other names, but John Nord, big rugged guy, looked good. He and Butch Reed got into a fight backstage and beat the shit out of each other. These are two very large men, man. Large,
legit
tough
fight.
guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're throwing blows at each other. This isn't they're not wrestling, they're not tussling.
Yeah.
This is we're going to
punches.
punch each other. Yeah. He said so when they got to Tulsa, their faces were bruised and they had black eyes and busted lips and they looked like they'd been in a fight. So Cowboy Bill Watts, in Cowboy's own way, made them fight again to get it out of their system.
How do you do that in your own way?
He said, you boys are going to fight. I ain't going to have that bullshit in my goddamn locker room, and made them fight again.
Yeah.
He said the last thing they wanted to do, Jim Ross, because they didn't want to fight anymore.
No.
They got it out of their system. Their hands were hurting. Their faces were hurting. They'd been in a legit fight, and Cowboy wanted them to fight again. He said, or you could shake hands and commit this as a dead issue, will never happen again, and we're done with it. So either way, finish your fight or admit you both screwed up because I could have had both you guys on a TV show tonight. So what if you couldn't have wrestled because you beat the shit out of each other for no money with no audience? He said, you dumb fucks. If you wanted to fight, I could have put you on fucking TV tonight fighting and made some money off of it, and it would have been the same thing. You assholes fought backstage, so now you look too shitty to take you out in the fucking ring and fight, so now I'm not going to make any money off of that or this.
Right.
You guys are dipshits, essentially.
I can't put makeup on split lips. That doesn't fix anything.
No, and you don't want to send Nord the Barbarian out with fucking blush on either. Like a little more rouge over here. Like
beat up and now has foundation on.
No shit, man. He says, Jim Ross goes on to say, they were just so sore. We don't think about how somebody's hands get messed up fighting in that regard. He didn't have any tape on, any gloves, so they're just sore as shit. And I just thought Cowboy made an interesting call there. But the good news is he laid down the law, they understood what the law was, and they never had any more issues. So they got it out of their system. But that was Bill and his mindset. But this shows you also the toughness of Butch. Butch was ready to fight Nord again if necessary, but John Nord's a big guy. He said, you remember how big he was. He's talking to somebody. He said he was 300 pounds, 6'5" or so. He's a big monster, so they were beating the hell out of. They were hammering each other. Flesh on flesh, and flesh don't win on this one. So, and I saw Eric Watts talking about it too, who's Bill Watts' son, and he was very overdramatic about it. He's very much a wrestler. He's very much like, he tells a story like, you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't think most of this is true as he's talking. He tells the story. He's like, man, it sounded like just this flesh on flesh, like you were dropping meat from a 10-story building, man, just splat. That's what it sounded like when they were fighting.
Yeah, hyperbole doesn't serve this story, friend.
Yeah, calm the fuck down. He says, though, about the whole thing, Nord will later say, and this is a quote from one of his succinct shoot interviews, quote, that whole deal was my fault.
Oh.
Yeah, he explains how part of it was he was riding with Dr. Death Steve Williams, and, he was doing that, and Steve was smoking a joint.
Uh-oh.
And he goes, I don't know, I was screwed up. He said, I'm not a pot guy. I'm more of like a booze, coke, or booze, steroids, crack guy.
That's a fascinating trajectory there.
I'm more alcohol, steroids, crack is what he said. I'm not a pot guy. Wow. I'm happy to be a pot guy right now.
Yeah. Don't admit that, man.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He just says everything. I'm more like booze, I'm more alcohol, steroids, crack.
I get down to crack, but Jesus,
stuff like
pot,
that.
I can't do that.
That's a little ridiculous. I don't want to do that. So then he'll go, yeah, that whole deal, that was my fault. Yeah, he said he must have got like a contact high, and then he was in the ring with Butch Reed, and they were going, and Butch was kind of pushing on him a weird way, and he was like, "The fuck you doing, man? Why you doing this?" And then later on, they ended up fighting in the locker room, and
How
it's like
he was that man.
he didn't even smoke it. He said. Or maybe he
just
did
around
smoke it. His story was so succinct, I couldn't tell if he smoked it or not. He said, I'm not really a pot guy. I don't know, I'm more, booze, alcohol, crack, or booze, steroids, crack. And he goes, but then he just digressed into, I don't know, so I was a little messed up and I'm in the ring. So I don't know if he had like a hot box situation, a contact high, or he was...
You get weed anywhere near me, within probably 25-foot radius, all bets are off, man.
I'll fight a giant guy. I will. I'll fight a giant guy, which is also
predictable.
A strange reaction to it.
Yeah, I've never...
If you're high and something goes on in the ring, you go, oh, my bad, dude. Did I fuck up? Because you're high, so you might have fucked up. So you would think, like, that could have been my fault.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was my fault.
I have marijuana inside me. I have partaken of some things that I didn't even partake. It was close by. It's probably my fault.
I mean, it was in the car, but
I smelt it.
Can't really count that. Really, just in the car. You know what I mean?
Who even knows?
So he, Jesus fuck, man. He ends up continuing in AWA also. He goes back and forth Mid-South AWA. Sure. And one of the things is that one of the big events that he takes part in AWA is, and by the way, I'll talk about this later, but he has a wrestling figure with AWA.
Is that right?
His figure, the Remco ones of AWA, is the only AWA. I've collected them over the years. Yeah. The only one I don't have is Nord.
Oh.
They're fucking expensive, man. They didn't make a lot of them. Like hundreds that I'm not going to spend.
Really?
Yeah, it's like $700, like expensive.
Stop that
for a little guy, like a little He-Man figure. Yeah,
$700.
That's why I haven't bought it yet. I'm not buying that shit. So
does it complete your set?
Yeah. I'm going to get it.
That's the only one you need.
Eventually, I'm going to get it.
$700. That's the worst.
But I'm not going to offer $700.
Yeah, why's it got to be that?
I don't know. I'm going to find like one that's not perfect or something.
You're going to get one that some kid drug down the stairs.
Yeah, like you can't. Maybe one of his eyes is rubbed off. Like one
somebody
of those
put a fish hook through it and fished with it.
No, not that bad. It has to be. Because also the old figures.
A leg?
Well, no, because the people like they'll fuck with the old figures and like take a body off and put it on another if the legs are better. You can't do that, so it's got to be a real one too. So
you want the good one.
Be picky, yeah.
$700
more sometimes,
God,
especially if he comes with all his gear, the little fur fucking outfit. Forget about it. We're talking thousands. Yeah, more than 1,000. So. April 20th, 1986, he participates in the biggest AWA event to this time, Wrestle Rock, which we've talked about a lot. It is him and Bruiser Brody versus Jimmy the Superfly Snuka and Greg Gagne in a steel cage.
What a match.
This is a match. Now, we've done this before. We've played this before, but it's been years since we've played. It's been at least 3 years since we've played this, I think. It was like the Scott Hall episode. So we have new listeners that have never heard it. We'll break it down a little bit, too. Let's talk about what they're doing. I'm going to introduce everybody right now. If you reintroduce you if you've heard it a couple times from us, or introduce you if you don't know what the Wrestle Rock Rumble is. This is a song that AWA made to promote this event. The Wrestle Rock Rumble, which was a show at the Minneapolis, the Metrodome, and had a concert afterwards and shit. So I'm going to play this for you. Nord is not in this rapping, but
he isn't?
No, he's not rapping.
Just standing there?
He is part of the match Greg Gagne is, quote, in a rage about. And we'll see that. Okay, let's go here. Okay.
Rage. I'm guessing it rhymes with cage.
Yep. Oh, God, Ken Resnick here.
Gotta have the announcer.
And now at long last, the debut. And it's absolutely sensational. Take a look. The Wrestle Rock Rumble.
This poor bastard has to sell it.
Oh, yeah, hard. Yeah.
Sensational.
Come on. Look at him try to dance. Get on!
Get on!
Alexa Anastasia, some Playboy. Marty Jannetty, our
there he
alumni.
Dirtbag.
He's at like a...
No sleeves.
I don't understand. Oh, that's nice. A fucking, there's Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, there he is.
I had to stop for a second because we've talked about it before. What the fuck were they doing? They're supposed to be like hanging out with girls, Marty Jannetty and Shawn Michaels, but they're at like a 12-year-old girl's birthday party. There's like balloons. They're at like a bowling alley where a 12-year-old would be. I don't understand. Our wrestlers are pedophiles. What is that?
Wherever you're at, just start filming. We need the footage now. All right, I got it.
So weird. So here's Bruiser Brody. This is going to be Greg Gagne. Oh, no, it's just Sheik.
I got my army a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
Gagne in my way, I'll make him crumble. He be sorry. I did the rest of the rock rumble.
This is good, isn't it, everybody?
Yeah.
Hello. I'm Jerry Blackwell. I'm the Sheik. I want to get my hands on that pistol neck geek. Now what's the idiot fumble? I'm going to make my splash in the wrestle.
I love that they have him splashing
Do a splash
on a 2x4.
He literally has 4 lines, and he lost timing in the second one.
He's a big, fat, like, Southern guy, and he's like, I'm Jerry Blackwell, and I lost it already. I'm going to fall on a guy and hurt him.
Pencil neck geek made him stumble.
The pencil neck geek. The thing they show, though, in the video of him, they just have a 2x4 just laid out with 2, like, hobby horses, and anybody could jump on that and it would break. But this guy, they're like, look at him break that 2x4. All right, let's keep it going here.
Is it a 2x4 or a sheet of fucking plywood?
It's a 2x4. It's a big 2x4.
It is a 2x4, isn't
it? Yeah. At least a sheet of plywood where you need physics, you need a little more. This is just get it in the middle, it'll snap. Especially if you're 400 pounds.
Right. Hello.
Monroe impersonator.
Dude, they got hot chicks.
I'm Greg Gagne, and I'm in a rage.
Whoa. Greg Gagne's in a rage, everybody.
He's certainly pissed.
This big giant hat. Big stovepipe on him, looking like Abe Lincoln. All right, here we go.
Tournament of change. I'm flying drop kick will make him see double. I grind him up at the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
Woo! Here they are. A cocks are framed. Yeah, chicks drying them off and shit. Here we go.
Walk out of a pool. Oh, push him in.
The pool.
Yeah, because the tiny girl can move that big man. I'm sure of it.
Kurt takes a great bump, man.
Yeah.
Meeting Shawn Michaels out there. What's up? He's with like an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah, that's not good.
I've got a passion. I'll get the title back from the humanoid person.
Mick Bockwinkel.
Oh my God.
I'll take the belt back and do the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
At least he kept time as a 50-year-old man.
Did. Not bad.
What is happening? More Playboy people.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Kamala. They're just showing people who are there.
No, it's just people, yeah.
There he is. They show him. They have a coconut set up on a stand, and they show Larry whacking it with some nunchucks and exploding it like he's going to blow up.
T-ball stand.
Yeah, like he's going to.
I'm going to bring nunchucks in I'm going to bring nunchucks in and just explode people. That's.
Ever wanted to hear middle-aged white people from Minnesota try to rap? You're getting it all right here. Remember the year before when the Chicago Bears did this? Yeah. They had young guys.
Right.
And they still couldn't do it. These are like older. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. Ow! We got a woo and ow.
And an
What Scott will do. He's an ex-boxer we've talked about.
Oh, Scott. Oh, Scott. Oh.
Scott's got brain damage.
Yeah, that's not good.
Scott used to like spar with some big time people. He's gotten hit a lot in the head.
Very evident.
And now, as you can see, let's have Vern Gagne, a 60-year-old man from Minnesota who grew up on a farm in Minnesota. Let's have him rap, everybody.
Grandpa Midwest, hit him.
Here he comes.
Just one last word from the former champ Vern, but give it a lot of thought to one more turn. There's some old scores that still give me trouble, and I'm starting to get the urge to do the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
I'm starting to get the urge to do the Wrestle Rock Rumble. I'm starting to get the urge to do the Wrestle Rock Rumble. Hey, this rap stuff isn't so hard. I don't know what these kids are making such a big deal out of here. I could do this.
Sir, you lost the beat 3 lines ago.
All the way in there. And they're going to just play it out. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So there you have it, and now you know that on April 20th it's at the Dome. So get
God,
your
Ken
tickets to be
Resnick, look at him
under
try
the
to
bubble,
dance.
Because you two can be doing the Wrestle Rock Rumble. Do it!
Do it. Do it with a slot machine. Have some chick hit a slot machine.
Hey,
Yeah.
we won.
Rumble.
It is crazy that they think that they nailed it.
They thought
That's amazing.
that was going to get them WrestleMania level, like, oh, man, it worked for the Super Bowl Shuffle. It's the same marketing company that did the Super Bowl Shuffle. So they just made Wrestle
But
Rock
the
Rumble,
difference
Super
is-
Bowl Shuffle.
They were all on time. They all hit the mark.
Yes.
Not one of you hit it.
That's the thing.
You all missed.
They made the Bears guys do multiple takes, probably.
Yeah,
whereas this
right.
one, Vern was like,
This is
I'm getting the
one-take
urge to
Charlie.
do the Wrestle Rock Rumble. I have somewhere to go. They're like, wait, Vern, we need to do. He's like, nope, I'm busy. I have to go now. Good day, everyone.
I have an urge to pee as well because my prostate's swollen. I gotta go.
One more word from the final champ, Vern. My prostate's swollen. I can't stop peeing.
I push so hard it burns. Well, there's no pee.
But I can't stop peeing.
And then he skips. Then he skips all rhyming, and then he just goes, "It hurts. I'm still
hurts.
dribbling. It
hurts.
I get nothing. I push.
Prostate
2 squirts.
swollen. So,
Have you ever gotten a message out of the blue? Maybe you ignore them. Or maybe you end up in conversation. Maybe they tell you about an amazing offer. I can really show you how to make some money. And maybe that gets you into a lot of trouble. But this isn't a story about people like you, the people receiving these messages. This is a story about the people behind the messages, on the other end of the line. Thousands of them, working in a micro-city built for scammers. From Wondery, the makers of Dr. Death and Kill List, comes Scam Factory, a new series about survival at the expense of others. Follow Scam Factory on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to Scam Factory early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts.
In the 1980s, a rosé swept the country.
Hey, Mike, I really like this White Zinfandel.
Well, good. Now put it down. We're going to try another one.
White Zin became America's top-selling wine. But most don't know that this sweet drink has a sour history. What began in 1986 with counterfeit bottles
A big fraud, a multi-million-dollar fraud.
sent investigators chasing one of the most powerful families in the business, the Licciardis. But the closer the feds got to them, the more dangerous things became. It's a story of deceit,
At the time, I was paranoid.
threats,
You touch my kids, I will kill you.
and murder.
With a .22 caliber bullet to the head.
What started with a scheme to mislabel wine spilled into a blood-soaked battle for succession. Welcome to Bloodvines. You can binge listen to Bloodvines exclusively and ad-free on Wondery Plus. Join Wondery Plus in the Wondery app, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify.
there is the Wrestle Rock Rumble. Just so you had to hear it again. I love the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
It's a travesty.
It's amazing. It's amazing that existed. The saddest thing is Ken Resnick coming in at the beginning and the end because he's doing this like,
trying
it's
so
like-
hard.
it's like a joke. Like if it was some sort of joke where they're like, "Hey, dorky white dad, dance," in the 80s, and he's like, "Okay," and he's like, "Oh, this is good, right? I'm dancing. I'm good."
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. He's like, "Yeah, Wrestle Rock Rumble."
But they
Do it.
all the problem
They're
I
all
think
terrible.
is that they're trying so hard and missing so wildly.
I think Larry Zbyszko's the best at it. He's the most in time.
Yeah.
He's got like something. He's terrible at it, but out of
Right.
all of these people, he's the best at it.
It's amazing how hard they miss.
It's better than "I'm Greg Gagne and I'm in a rage." That's how he starts it out. I'm in a rage. I want Brody and I want him in a cage. Oh God! So he's involved in that. Snook and Gagne win, and then they get to fucking do something to
Really?
Sheik
I
Adnan
guess that's
Casey.
because-
They're going to win that match, which is ridiculous because Greg Gagne Yeah.
You're not beating Brody.
No, he's not beating. No, he'll beat him up easy. So, if it was any form of normalcy and not
any form of actual fight.
Yeah. So he's going to go on, and during this time, this is when the AWA in '87 it really goes right down the shitter. When this is in WWF, the Rockers go to the WWF. Yeah. Kurt Hennig goes there. Anybody that comes in that's good. Sherry leaves. Like anybody that comes in that's good is they go on. They get to AWA. They're on ESPN for a little while. WWF takes them, or Mid Atlantic takes them even. So. Yeah. They're getting taken. So Nord sticks around a little bit because he knows Vern and, it's his hometown and all that.
Loyalty matters, yeah.
He teams up with Scott Norton, his high school buddy Scott Norton there for a little while as the Lumberjacks. I remember that one. He's the Lumberjacks. He also goes briefly for Don Owen up in Portland there and teams up with the grappler Len Denton for their tag team for a little bit. He says he almost went to the WWF in June of '88.
Oh.
According to him. And he's talking about Bruiser Brody, and he says, quote, "The last time I worked with him was in Little Falls, Minnesota, which was in June of '88. Frank died on July 3rd. So that was July 3rd, '88. Wow. He said, "We were talking to Vince McMahon then. Actually, Frank was talking to them. We were going to go into the WWF as a tag team." Which essentially is kind of what the WWF was trying to make anyway. And in '87, in '88, that's when they brought in like Powers of Pain, Warlord and Barbarian, and I think that's kind of knockoff of these two. Yeah. He said, "I was really excited about it, but then Frank got killed, so that yanked the rug out on that."
Yeah.
And he said, "To people who say I'm a clone of Bruiser Brody, I say it's a compliment. Let me tell you something. He's first, I'm second. Believe me, Frank was the man." So, yeah, we all know. But at least he doesn't say, like, I wasn't trying to. He's like, hey, look, man, if Bruiser Brody pops into your head when you see me, then I'll take it as a compliment. That's good. Yeah. So, in the AWA, as it's fading quickly, AWA is terrible with merchandise, by the way.
Yeah.
The wrestling figures that they have, the Remco figures, are like, these figures were like, they were He-Men.
Yeah.
Like kind of things. And they had like two different bodies. Like the WWF ones were the big rubber ones, so they could make the mold exactly how they wanted. Whereas these were like, you either had a muscular body that was totally ripped with the six-pack and all that stuff, or there was like one where it was just kind of
the flat chest.
Flatter, like a little stomach. You know what I mean? Like, oh, look, he's fat now. That means he's big. So they had a Nord figure. He was in the last bit of figures too. He was like the last series that came out was like Nord and a couple guys like that. Carlos Colon, a couple of people. So anyway, there's also a video that comes out in 1988, which is weird. It's Nord on the cover. Here, I'll show you the video. If you want to roll your chair over here, you can see it.
Oh,
yeah. It's called A Day in the Life of Nord the Barbarian.
A whole video that's just him.
Yeah, just a day in the life. Free poster inside.
Hey.
And it says on it, you thought the commercials were crazy. Apparently there was commercials for this. I was watching this at the time. I didn't see him. He said also, "Don't buy this tape, then I care." That's a quote on the front. I don't know what that means. But nowadays, this tape is very rare because nobody fucking bought it. There's not a lot of these floating around.
Right.
I want to watch this guy who's a shitty worker work many matches.
I want to see his day in his life.
One I found on Amazon is $89.95 for this VHS tape. Yeah, a little pricey. Also, I found he was a part of the Remco, AWA Remco Mini Mashers set, which is little tiny, again, roll your chair over. That's what these guys are.
Oh.
Tiny.
Those were my favorite ones. Not necessarily of wrestlers, but I loved that size men because I was tiny. But, I mean, I could.
I love that size men. That's the size man I like. I love that size men.
There was a
little
whole
one.
Line,
think I can manipulate.
There was a whole line. I forget what they were called, but there was a whole line of like. I forget what they were called, but they weren't wrestlers, but they were something like that. You know what I mean? But they had different characters, kind of like the homies.
Yeah, those little
that size. Yeah, I like those ones.
These are kind of like that, but they're like one color. They're like they have purple ones, green ones, red ones, pink ones. It's not very
indiscriminate.
I can tell which one's Sergeant Slaughter because he's got the hat on. Other than that, I don't know who's who.
It's all the same color. There's no detail to it.
No, the whole one. Each figure's just one color, and they have in these Ric Flair, Scott Hall, the Road Warriors, Larry Zbyszko, Nick Bockwinkel, Stan Hansen, Boris Zukov, Nord the Barbarian, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, Kurt Hennig.
And you're just supposed to know.
You're supposed to know. Yeah, you got to really look.
You got to be a huge fan.
Big fan.
Yeah.
In '89 too, they start calling him, rather than Nord the Barbarian, they're going with the Lumberjack theme now with him and Scott Norton, and then just him, where he'll be Yukon John now.
Not bad.
Yukon John. Too. Yeah, well, he just comes out with an axe, and he comes out in jeans. Uh-huh. There's several. The WCW had Big Josh a couple years later. That was Matt Bourne.
I do love a good weapon that you're not going to use.
Well, yeah, he comes out in jeans, a flannel shirt, like a skin hat, an animal skin hat, and his boots, and a big giant fucking logging axe over his shoulder, like
real
he's
brawny, man. Yeah.
Like he's gonna fucking behead the man he's fighting. He doesn't need,
Now chest slap him.
Yeah. So stupid.
Now backhand this man's bare chest.
Oh, my God. He had the guillotine leg drop is what he would do, which is Hulk Hogan's leg drop. But he would do like this thing where he would run back and forth for like 30 seconds first. Ropes and ropes and ropes, because as you're jumping up and down, it makes a difference. Yeah. The momentum back and forth that you get makes a big difference in what force you're going to have going up and down.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Run consistently the same speed across the fucking
back and forth. And like stop to hit the ropes and stop to hit the ropes.
Well, you got to charge up. That's what it is. It's like hulking up.
Yeah, it's the thing. You got to charge it up that way. He's just charging up. He called his axe Bertha, of course, too. Yeah. He had a name here. He, at one point, seems to be going on like a born again type of thing.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Where he's talking about, they ask him about his New Year's resolutions, and they go, yeah, Yukon John here. It's Greg Gagne interviewing him, and he keeps howling, by the way. He goes, he keeps doing this howling thing, and Greg Gagne goes, there's the wolf call. All the fans are howling. Nobody else is howling. It's 1989 AWA. There are 150 people there, and they couldn't care fucking less what's happening in this fucking ring whatsoever.
Yeah.
So, Eric Bischoff is the one interviewing him actually at the time, and he says, Jesus Christ, do you have any resolutions you want to share with us? And John says, quote, I got 3 resolutions.
Oh, 3.
Number 1, read the Bible.
Okay.
Number 2, read the Bible.
What's the third one?
Number 3, clean up all the dirty, rotten scum in the AWA.
Oh, that was a surprise.
While I'm reading the Bible.
That was a left turn.
That was very much a left turn. That's wrestling, everybody. At least he didn't go woo afterwards. Like,
I mean, he was doing
but
great.
not like Flair, like Greg Gagne.
And left me with a head scratcher.
That's John Nord for you. That's how he's going to be his whole life here. So he's in Japan in 1990 for a while here.
Right.
I see a couple months he's in Japan. Fighting some interesting people here. Some of them are Japanese guys that, Jimmy, if I said their names, you're going to go, huh? What the fuck?
Head scratcher.
So also he fights, he wrestles Bam Bam Bigelow a few times.
Yeah.
Who we know of him, obviously. Scott Hall's over there at the time. He's wrestling with Scott Hall a little bit here. Back in the AWA in 1990, after... Wow, this is bad stuff. AWA 1990s when it's the end. It's about to die. This is when they started doing events without audiences.
Oh boy.
They had the just the room.
Yeah.
That was a fucking
because there's a pandemic.
No. It was just a void. This weird void that they wrestled in where there was nothing in there. Then they did a couple, oh my God. And there's a thing, I think it's on the WWE network where they'll show it. They have this advertisement for their new show, which you don't need an audience for, where they would like film people in like a bar, like looking at stuff and reacting, and then act like that's the audience.
Oh my God.
And they project the audience, like super, like green screen them.
Just create.
It looks terrible, Jimmy. It's so fucking bad.
Just make it happen.
Yeah, so they did the Team Championship Series, which was awful. That was really bad. He fights a bunch of guys who really you've never heard of here. Jamie Magnum, the Annihilator, Texas Hangman Psycho. That's quite the tag
those are
there.
3 things together.
Wow, that's a lot there. Baron von Raschke a little bit. He actually fights here, has a match with Coquina Maximus, who's Yokozuna later on.
Okay.
And he beats him at Super Clash 4, which there's like 2 people there. It's They could have held it in Vern's backyard if he really wanted to. So he talks about steroids because he's huge. As you saw the cover of that video. He's fucking enormous. And he goes, I wasn't really a cycle guy, is what he says.
Oh, he was just boosting hard.
Which, if you're supposed to be a cycle person, that's how it works. That's how they're more healthy. That's how Jose Canseco always tells you you're supposed to do it.
That's how you
and all
get
that
longevity
kind of shit.
out of it, right?
Yeah, he said, quote, I'd take a cheap bottle of testosterone and take a shot here and there. I wasn't a cycle guy. So he was just jamming himself up all the time.
Wow.
My muscle, I'm looking slightly smaller. Let me jam myself up some more.
That's how you get tits, though.
That's how you get fucking a lot of things. That's how you get your kidneys to rot out and your liver to fall out and shit like that. That's not good. That's how a lot of the guys were doing it back then, too, that weren't really healthy with it. They were just needed to look good all the time. So
just
they took
hammering.
them. And those guys died when they're 48, and somehow he's still alive. I don't know fucking how, but Nord's still alive.
And we don't have the Ultimate Warrior. Damn it.
Right? So, well, that's better for the better. He's a pain in the ass. He's a jackass, the Ultimate Warrior. I fucking hear his bullshit. He's such a jerk off, man. He was a jerk off then, and then you hear his interviews later on. And you're like, you fucking asswipe. Shut up.
He
Shut
just wanted to be a
fuck
star,
up.
James.
Ugh, he's just such a judgmental twat. I hate him. I'm better than everyone. Everybody needs to be more like me because I am like this and like that, and I'm the warrior and the way of the warrior. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. Shut up.
You're a wrestler, sir.
Yeah. People are terrible out there drinking alcohol and doing all that. Shut up. Who
Meanwhile,
had a heart attack when they were 53? Shut the fuck up.
In a hotel parking lot, for
Shut up.
Christ's sake.
Guess who's still alive that you talked so much shit about?
Yeah.
Jake the Snake Roberts,
Right.
who did
Yeah.
fucking your
Good
body
point.
weight 1,000 times over in cocaine, is still alive. Your heart exploded. So who was right, who was wrong, who cares? Shut
But
up.
he had to be doing coke, too, right?
He says he never did drugs.
I
God,
can't
no,
believe
never
that
did.
for a
Other than
second.
steroids, he never did drugs.
His fucking
He didn't
skin.
eat anything that was bad. He was a fucking lunatic.
His fucking head looked like it was going to explode on TV his last appearance.
That was just him. He was always that's how he would jack
He looked
himself
so
up.
bad.
They said he would go into this. He'd go off on his own and get himself
Yeah.
all crazy, and all the guys are like, "This guy's a fucking jerk off. He's working way too hard at this. You don't have to do all that, dude."
You're going to die young, sir.
Yeah. So Nord goes to WWF in 91.
Mm-hmm.
He says that, talks about doing a lot of drugs and steroids. And he said, the thing about wrestling is it's so hard on you, you crack. You have to medicate yourself to keep going, which we've heard a ton, especially WWF at that time period. You're working 6 to 7 days a week. Sometimes these guys were on the road. These guys were on the road for 2 straight months without being home, stuff like that. They're and working every night and traveling every day, and it's
Making no
fucking
money
brutal.
doing it.
It's brutal. Yeah. So when he's in WWF, he needs a gimmick. We got this big giant guy.
Right.
Looks crazy. Looks scary. What's his gimmick going to be? Well, apparently, Vince had really, really wanted someone to be a Viking. Vince gets these characters in his head once in a while.
I just need a guy that fits it.
He comes up with something and he wants to fit it, and that was with the Undertaker character. He had that, and he wanted to do something with that, and he had several characters like that. Where this, I need somebody to be this because this is this character I have.
Yeah.
DiBiase, the $1 Million Man.
Really?
He had that character and was looking for the guy to be the $1 Million Man. So that's the same thing. So Vince had this Viking character. And he first thought maybe the Undertaker, Mark Calloway, should be the Viking before he's the Undertaker. Maybe he'll be the Viking.
The best portrayed act in history of it, right?
There's never been a character like that had the longevity. That's you know what I mean, like
So
a
good.
gimmick like that. The best gimmick in the history of wrestling, longevity wise. So he said, "Wow." This is J.J. Dillon, who was there at the time, and he's behind the scenes and everything, and was the manager of the Four Horsemen and all that kind of shit. He says, quote, Vince's first reaction was, maybe he could be a Viking with the helmet and horns, talking about The Undertaker.
Yeah, right.
He said, Undertaker's a pretty impressive guy. He had the size. In the business, they call it the it factor. And if you're on the business on the executive side, it's hard to find the words to describe it, quote unquote. I can't explain it, but it, and I guess another word for it is natural charisma, and Undertaker had it.
Yeah.
So he said, no, we're going to make him the Undertaker, and they got Paul Bearer and all that kind of shit. So he's had this fucking thing hanging around for a year that he wanted, this Viking. And then when he saw John Nord, he was like, there's my Viking.
His last name is Nord. Of course it's him.
I'm going to put horns on his head. Look at him. He's going to look like he came in. He's pillaging. He's raping. John, have you ever raped him? Have you ever raped a woman or a man? I don't care.
Anyone. Anything.
Have you put your penis in anybody without their consent? Because if so, I think this Viking thing's going to work. We can do this. Okay. Okay, you have it. He's got that it factor. I see rape in his eyes. He's got the it. Give him a 1099. Let's go. So he's managed by Mr. Fuji, and he is, at first he's the Viking in a couple of house shows, but then he becomes the Berzerker.
Okay.
The Berserk, which just makes me think of, it just makes me think of Clerks, though.
Right. Yeah.
How would you like some making fuck Berserker? Right. That's all I think of. That's all I think of. How would you like some making fuck Berzerker? How would you like to suck my cock, Berzerker? It's all I think of. Did he say making fuck?
Fuck yeah, Olaf Berzerker.
Olaf Berzerker. So his gimmick was, number one, he came with the boots on, and he was just he would do like the almost goose stepping, I'm a fucking Viking, and he would do the huss, like fucking Bruiser Brody as a Brody tribute, because that's what Brody did. And the way he won his matches was, I don't know, because he's so out of control, you can't tell him, well, you got to pin a guy.
Yeah, right.
He would beat them up, then throw them out of the ring so they get counted out.
Okay.
That's how he'd win matches. Which is great, but you can't win titles that way. So at some point, he's going to have to pin somebody. So he participates in the Survivor Series in 91. He is against, his team is Colonel Mustafa, who is the Iron Sheik, like well past his fucking prime. Hercules, who is looking real weird and sallow at that point, too. Skinner, who's Steve Kern as an Everglades character with tobacco juice all over him. And the Berzerker. That's one team versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Hell yeah.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, my.
Kerry Von Erich, Texas Tornado. We've done an episode on. Of course, Tito Santana in his El Matador gimmick, where he is wearing green pants and purple sashes and shit, looking like a nut. So SummerSlam 92 is over in England. It's in London. And he's hanging out with Hawk afterwards.
Okay.
And he says that essentially everybody went home from here when London happened. Everybody it was over with. Everybody flew home, but him and Hawk stayed behind.
Jumped on planes to come home, not gone home for the night.
No, yeah, they all left to go back to the States, but they stuck around for a few days.
Oh boy.
And he said he goes out and he goes to some bar, and because Hawk had said, hey, come out with me tonight, we'll go hang out. And he said, all right, yeah. He goes, yeah, I'm going to hang out with some Hells Angels that are over here from back in there's bikers over here, and then there's guys from the U.S. that are over here, and they want to hang out. So Nord was like, that sounds like a party. Sure, I'll do that. I'll party. So he goes out, and they party at one bar, and they go to another bar and close that down. And Hawk, Nord, and the Hells Angels are quite the combination.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, Hawk and Nord, first of all, they don't need a gang because those two guys could clear a fucking bar out on their own, but they also have the Hells Angels with them.
So need the disorganization of the organization.
Yeah, they don't need that. These just some two Minnesota guys will beat the shit out of everybody. So then they end up going to somebody's house for the after party, and they're all partying, and he said that's when he made a mistake.
Uh-oh.
He said, quote, somebody handed me a paper strip.
Yeah?
I said, what's this?
Put it on your tongue, dog.
And they said, it's acid. He said, it's acid. And he was like, that's this paper? They were like, yeah, no, you need a little bit of this little piece tear off. And he was like, this little thing's going to fuck me up? Get the fuck out of here. And he goes, I just popped the whole thing in my mouth.
Like the size of a postage stamp?
like a
too
fucking
big?
strip,
Yeah.
probably 5 hits of it or something
Right.
that weren't broken apart. He's like, I just
Oh,
popped it in my
God.
mouth, and he said, "Wow, that was a fucking mistake." He goes, "I was tripping hard."
Yeah.
He said people's faces were turning into demons, and
Oh, my
fucking
God.
Hawk was tripping too. Fucking, it was a bad time. He's like, it was. I took too much acid, basically.
Way too much because I'm an arrogant fuck.
And when you're doing acid, the main thing you want is comfort. You
Yeah.
want to be like in a place you recognize, with people you recognize, in a comfortable, thing. In a strange house in a strange country with the Hell's Angels is a
Strange
terrible
people,
place
right.
to do acid. Terrible. So he said, quote, "We failed the piss test before we got there in England, so we knew we were in trouble. 6 weeks off. We were stranded there for 3 days in the Hell's Angels house coming down."
3 days.
3 days it took them to come down.
Holy shit.
And they didn't go back because they knew they were suspended for failing their steroid test anyway. So they were like, fuck it. We'll just stick around here. We're going
3 days off and really find ourselves.
to really find ourselves and figure out what a crumpet is, and we'll work it all out. Let's do it. I've heard a lot of good things about scones. What do you think, Hawk? So 1992, later on in the year, is the incident with Nails here. Okay, now Nails, Jesus Christ, this guy, he's the guy, Kevin Wachholz, he's the guy, Vince had an idea, well, let's see here, we have a matador, that's good, we have a Viking, I need that, we have a person who's actually arisen from the dead, okay, that's excellent, I like that.
The undead.
The undead, I have a prison guard. Okay, that's good. I have a who's supposed to be like a brutality, fucking a brutality giving prison guard. I got him. Okay, I got a brutal prison guard. But what I don't have is an actual prisoner.
No.
I need a prisoner. What about someone who is like on loan, like from prison? What if we just took a dangerous felon and we just take him out in his orange uniform, we put him in the ring against somebody and let him wrestle? What about that? What if we pretended that was a character? So they do that. And they make Nails, who is
a guy who on good behavior is allowed to go wrestle and hurt people.
Absolutely. And he is in a full bright orange DOC fucking jumpsuit. That's what he wrestles in. He doesn't take that off, and he's got tights on. He just wrestles in this jumpsuit. And that's what happened here. So apparently there's the incident where Nails goes in and confronts Vince McMahon, yells at him, and then fucking chokes him. And this is a thing that happened. He choked him, punched him. There was a whole big thing working. And eventually Nails will sue Vince, saying that Vince sexually harassed him.
Oh!
He said he sexually harassed him and made him take steroids.
Vince's dick, or what'd he do? I want to know.
He said he grabbed his cock. He came over and grabbed his cock, and that's why he choked him. That's what that was his excuse for choking him.
The bait, I guess. I don't know.
But apparently, Berzerker Nord here was the guy who guarded the door while this went down. He went to watch the door or was right by the door. We don't know if he was actually doing it. Here is a wrestler named Charlie Norris, he was a kind of a jobber guy. Mm-hmm. He says, quote, Nails, he was working a program with the big boss man. They did Boston Garden. They did Madison Square Garden, where you're supposed to get a nice chunk of money from that, not just the money you're getting. He said, we were going over there, John Nord and Nails that day. I didn't believe him, but Nails said, I'm going to choke him out. I'm going to get Vince tonight, and you guys pretend that you're pulling me off of him, but not really. Oh. Just make an effort because I don't want you guys to get in trouble. So me and Nord were in there. He said, I don't see how we could have pulled him off anyway. I don't think 50 people could have pulled him off. He said, he was one bad dude. Nice guy, great guy, and I loved his gimmick, but he asked Vince, how come my payoff is so low? It was ridiculous, like $600. I saw it. He showed me.
Wow.
That was the main event of Madison Square Garden show, though, where you're supposed
$600.
It's not much, yeah. Which the business was so in the shitter by 92. Yeah. I mean, they're lucky to get $600 out of that. He said, for Madison Square Garden, are you kidding me? So he asked Vince, and Vince got snotty with him. Some people you don't do that with, and he's one of them. He did grab Vince, and he was really choking him. He let him go, but yeah, that was Green Bay. That was in Green Bay, Wisconsin. We were watching the door so nobody else could get in there, John Nord and me. I don't remember who else was there. He got fired after that. Not Nord.
Sure. Yeah.
Nails,
right.
And sued him. Another thing that Hawk says, or that Nord says, is that they ask him about people being tough all the time for some reason, and he's an arbiter of tough here. They asked him about Haku, because they always asked everybody any Haku stories about him being tough, and he said, quote, "No fucking way. I love Haku, but he's not that tough. I don't get the Haku deal. If I saw him, I'd tell him, you're not that tough." And he laughs, which, I don't know, everybody else was terrified of him, including a SWAT team. He did beat up a whole bar and bite a guy's nose off and pop a guy's eye out, too, at one point. And nobody fucked with him at all, including, even Andre the Giant was like, yeah, respect that guy. So
John says, not that tough.
Not that tough. Okay, whatever, John. I mean, he might know shit. I don't know. I wasn't there. So in 93, he's in the Royal Rumble here also. And he leaves the WWF in early 93. He goes to All Japan, but I can only find a few matches really over there that he did. Doesn't seem to do a lot in, big time wrestling for a little while here. Then he ends up in WCW in 1997. He pops up out of nowhere in the Nitro era. This is when they added Thunder, and they just needed bodies. They needed not only Thunder, they just needed bodies. They had so much going on. So they were hiring anybody and everybody who's ever had a name.
They should have organized that a little better, yeah?
It got out of control too fast. It got bigger than they...
It grew more than they expected it was going to get.
Yes.
That's what happens when you get Hulk Hogan fucking involved. People are going to watch.
Spun out of control. And you make him a bad guy, that's going to make people go, what's that now?
It was awesome.
It made everybody watch that at least once, because you go, Hulk Hogan's a bad guy now. People are like, what? And you go, yeah, I swear to God, you got to check it out.
Black and white.
They'll go watch.
No yellow
He's got
or red on him
stubble
at all.
and shit. It's
right.
wild. Yeah,
it's weird.
So he comes in. He has short blonde hair and wears sunglasses and just goes by John Nord. So somehow that's supposed to be, a great character. Yeah. I don't know. And he doesn't do anything. It's all these just kind of preliminary matches because they just need bodies that people recognize. So they do that. They pair him with Barry Darso, his friend from high school who was Smash and all that shit. They team them up for a little while. He has a few matches on Nitro, these are such low down the card matches. He beat Roadblock. He beat fucking, people like that. Nobody with anything here. Then 4th of July, 1998.
Oh,
he's on. He gets beat by Goldberg. So that's a big one there. Yeah. But late in 1998, he said he had a shitload of injuries, just a ton of injuries that were limiting his availability. He said he loved WCW because it was easy money.
Really?
He goes, they pay me over $100,000 a year. He goes, I'd do once a month. I'd have to work. I'd be sitting home once a month. I'd go work. I'd get a nice check. He goes, that's a great job. That was, boy. He said he didn't like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash very much, but other than that,
I mean, they'd strike you as guys that are just egomaniac. You know what I mean? They want it about them.
And especially then, too, they were like, we're in charge here. Fuck you people. Fuck you, AWA guy who nobody cares about.
They and Hulk are why I watched.
Yeah.
Or gave a shit at all.
He, in WCW in 1997, he made $40,274 because he was only partially of the year there. 98, $122,200 he made.
Hell yeah.
This is from what I can find, a total, I don't know about house shows, but a total of 13 matches.
Wow.
He made $162,474 for 13 matches.
Fantastic.
So that is not bad. That's more than $10,000 a match. That's not too shabby.
Yeah.
He ended up making some serious money. He supposedly went back to Japan for a little bit around this time, but he's all injured and it doesn't really work out. So he's back in the States and he's kind of done wrestling at this point. And he ends up being completely done in a minute here. 1999, he does a high school fundraiser for I guess it's his kid or his nephew or somebody in his family. He does a fundraiser for their high school where he's going to put on a wrestling show and, all proceeds go to the high school.
Produce it himself.
Athletics or whatever. Mm-hmm. So he's calling his old buddies, people he knows, famous people. It'll come do him a favor. And he says he called Jake the Snake up.
Oh.
My old buddy. And he goes, Jake, will you come in for $1,000? I'll give you $1,000. Come on in and fart around for 5 minutes, do your thing and leave. And Jake said, sure, why not?
Really?
So Jake... Yeah, he said, what the hell? That's what he was doing. He's working the indies at this point. So $1,000 for a night, why not? So he says he shows up and he goes, Jake's in in bad shape. He's not looking real good. He's looking sick, and he's looking. He goes and he comes up and he goes, I need the 1,000 up front. And he's like, come on, Jake. He goes, oh, you know me. I'll pay you. I've known you for fucking 20 years. You know I'll pay you.
Yeah.
Like, give me a break. I'm not going to stiff you. And he goes, I need the money up front. And John was like, oh, okay, I get it. So he goes, I put it in his hand, and he is poof, gone. He goes, he's disappears. He goes right to the hood. He's getting whatever the fuck he wants, and smoking crack and doing all this shit. He says he gets up. Gets in the ring, Jake, and he threw up over the top rope outside of the ring. He stood up and threw up outside of the ring over the top rope.
We got what we paid for already.
Then he didn't have his boots tied properly because he was so fucked up.
Yeah.
So at one point when guy dragged him, his boot came off. Wasn't supposed to. So at one point, Jake has to throw up again. He throws up in his boot in the ring. Which is like a cartoon cowboy or some shit would throw up in his boot.
Best.
Oh, man. He was like, well, that was $1,000 for that, huh? Yeah, all right. That's amazing, isn't it?
It's $500 a time for him to throw up. That's worth it.
Throw up twice? Not bad. So, yeah, Nord didn't like that. I'm not a pot guy. Alcohol, pills, or crack. That's what he said, not steroids.
Pills.
Alcohol, pills, or crack is what he likes. Come on.
That's bad news, man.
That is awful. So 2002, he's done wrestling. Body can't do it anymore. He's 43 years old.
Yeah.
It's time to stop wrestling if you're a big guy who's got knee and hip problems and shit. So he goes instead. What do you think he's going to do now, Jimmy?
Drive truck.
Nope. He goes to work at his brother's auto dealership.
Oh, he's going to go sell cars?
Yep, Northeast Motors in Hilltop, Minnesota. He goes to work for, which is weird because that's what Greg Gagne did too. He went and he sells Toyotas. So,
I mean, people will show up and buy from you.
That's the thing, yeah. So it's to come up, you can hear some stories. So this is when he also starts. I don't know what it is about this. I guess when you're on the road wrestling, you're just kind of going from place to place. You don't have a lot of time to fuck up. Once he has like a 9 to 5, he starts getting arrested like the Dickens, boy.
Really?
I mean, just from 2002, there's 16 incidents where he is charged with 16 separate incidents where he's charged with felonies or misdemeanors. 16 times. 16.
In 3 years?
No. From 2002 to now, or from 2002 to 2019, he had 16 separate times where cops put bracelets on him.
Incidents with the cops where you're arrested once a year.
16 times
That's
as an
too many.
adult grown human being. Not a wild 20-year-old.
Right.
A family man with a wife and a kid.
40s and 50s.
Yeah. He's got a son in high school at this point. He's got a wife.
Shit.
Tons of, most of them DUIs. And then driving with suspended licenses while getting a DUI. And then, all that kind of shit.
In Minnesota?
In Minnesota.
Any idea how fucking drunk you got to be to have the cops' attention?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They'll pull you over and go, hey, what, 5, 6? Yeah, that should be good. I mean, I've had 3, so.
Well, if you had your road beer, say.
Yeah, so, it's just a road beer? Okay, yeah. That's, I'm always getting those too.
How long ago did you get off, eh? Half an hour? All right, get home
You need a fresh one, or I got a cooler in the car there I can get for you? No?
There's an
Okay, you're
igloo
good
in
with
the
that
back,
one?
huh?
Okay. Good. Stay warm then. All right. That's how it goes. So, brandy? Can I get you some brandy? Like a dog with a thing on? Yeah. So, his son, Joe, like we said, wrestled for Waconia High School, and then he signed with the Minnesota Golden Gophers there in college to go wrestle. By December of 2005 there, he does an interview, and he says he's a wholesale car salesman now, and he's wholesale, much more interested in his son's, wrestling and all that than he is in anything of his. Yeah, he said that his son's great. He goes, he's 6'5", he's got that blonde curly hair. He's good. I don't know if I want him to be a pro wrestler, but it might be in his blood.
Wholesale. There's no meat on that bone to be getting commissions.
No,
wholesale.
Sell off some wholesale cars and then get shit-faced and drive home with no license.
Jesus.
Thinking about, I just love my son. I just want my son to wrestle good.
I made $450 on that Datsun today. Let's go to the bar.
That's worse than Nails did at Madison Square Garden. And I said
That's not good.
That's where I draw the line. Draw the line right there. I'm sorry.
Oh, my.
So now he goes through, like I said, all of these arrests over the years, and it's crazy because you cannot find information on these early arrests. I don't know how. He was known in the area. He's in Minnesota. He's known there very well.
Right.
He's getting fucking DUIs like nobody's business, getting all this type of shit, and nobody's putting it in a fucking newspaper even. I can't find a newspaper article from back then that says wrestler John Nord arrested again for having a, twice the legal.
That's how unimportant DUIs are in Minnesota.
Wow, it's wild, man. So July 2016, he is part of the class action lawsuit against the WWE.
Okay.
He's like, what the fuck? Throw my hat in the ring there.
Everybody else is getting paid. Help me out.
Yeah, for traumatic brain injuries and all that. And when you hear Nord talk, you go, yeah, combination of getting hit in the head, drugs, booze, and maybe just not being the brightest guy to begin with. That makes what we're looking at right here. Yeah. So the lawsuit was dismissed in September 2018 somehow.
It was?
It's wild, man.
Entirely dismissed?
It's so funny because every other sport, when there's like a lawsuit going on with that, they all go, oh, yeah, we fucked up bad on that. There's plenty of cataloging of people, being having problems and them sweeping it under the rug. But in wrestling, they just let it go. They're like, I don't know. They're independent contractors. Fuck them.
Shocking.
So, in September 2020, an appeal for the lawsuit was also dismissed. So, dismissed. You guys are fine. Hey! Hey, you're fine. Yeah. No, I know you got hit in the head with a chair 100 times, but your brain, it doesn't work like that. You're fine. Wow. So, so John is walking around. He's in and out of fucking handcuffs. His brain's a little mushy. He likes pills and booze and fucking crack. He's got problems.
Fucking
let's
crack.
just say. He's got problems. You almost kind of feel bad for the guy as he's limping around. You know what I mean? You almost do.
It's
But
not good.
Not nearly as bad
What?
as I feel for John Nord, technology executive, global leadership of cybersecurity in Huntsville, Alabama. John Nord.
Or a big crack fan.
Big crack fan. John Nord, principal at JEN Consulting Group in Southbury, Connecticut.
Principal.
John Nord, owner, South Florida Center for Cosmetic Surgery. Did you let this guy operate on you? Jesus. John Nord, restaurant owner at Magnolia's Blossom Restaurant in Foley, Alabama. And this is another one. John Nord here. This is from 1917. Another bone-dry arrest. John Nord of Randolph was arrested Saturday afternoon by the deputy sheriff on a charge of unlawfully permitting Arthur Kyrene to keep liquor in a building on his premises. Seems like something our guy would do. That could have been his relative. And then finally, John Nord, who is, the way he puts it, the custom designs of Texas Swede artisan John Nord.
What is that?
He's a Swedish Texan named John Nord who makes... He says,
boots.
Western artisan. He's got a big thing that's shape of Texas on his breast here.
Yeah.
Featured in Museum of the Big Bend Trappings, Llano County Museum Trappings, Fort Concho Stribling shows, Lubbock WPS Spur Artist, and Cowboy True Artist. I don't know what any of that shit is. I really fucking don't, man.
He's Texas through and through, though, with a little bit of Swede
he's a Swedish Texan who makes shit out of wood and, like
puts the state of Texas on his shirt.
Yeah.
He's that guy.
He's the guy who makes jackalope horns, and he's like, see, made me buy you a jackalope when you come through here.
Jackalope horn helmets.
Yeah, that's what he makes. No, really, they're all around here. Now, January 24th, 2018, John goes on Judge Mathis.
Oh, what's he got? What's his case?
This is amazing.
God, I love Judge Mathis.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. He was sued, John was, by Christine Schmidt, who he had befriended at a substance abuse facility at which she worked, and obviously he was
bilked her out of some cash.
He was a resident of there.
Yeah,
because he's in and out of rehab a lot, a whole lot. He stole allegedly here $4,759 on 2 credit cards she opened for him to help him get back on his feet. And he just charged them all up, and it was on her to pay it.
2 $2,500 cards.
Yeah. Now, Nord, in January of 2018, said he had been in substance abuse recovery since December of 2016.
Wow.
So over a year. And he said that he and the plaintiff, who was he was hanging out with, actually had burned through a $10,000 royalty check from WWE on things such as fancy restaurant dinners. I have $10,000. We'll live forever. What do you?
Let's go to Red Lobster.
What the fuck? Initially, he intended to repay her with funds from another royalty check, which never materialized.
Yeah.
What happened here was, because I read about this.
That's got to be a settlement, right?
No. They get royalty checks because they're on the network and they sell things. So, and also they reissue the dolls now. They reissue the figures. They're really cool. The Berzerker one's cool too because it comes with the fucking helmet, and the axe, and all this shit. I've seen it on there. It's awesome. So he told her, "Will you open credit cards for me? I'm waiting on this check. I'm going to get this credit card." Then no, it showed up. I'm going to get this royalty check. Then I'll pay it back. But he said when the royalty check came, he and Christine Schmidt burned through the money on other shit and didn't pay the credit card back.
You didn't have to pay taxes on that, man.
Yeah. And he said he was going to pay it back with the next royalty check, which never came.
Oh, no.
That never materialized. So she said she accepted as reimbursement 205 valuable wrestling dolls. He gave her wrestling figures.
And so put them on eBay. He'll get your money back.
You'll get your money back. And she sold them for a total of $1,700, which who knows if she knew?
Yeah.
Who knows if she knew what they were really worth, and that sort of thing. So Nord claimed that she would have earned much more money if she sold them at their actual value. She said that 5 of them were worth approximately $750 each.
Really?
Those are the fucking AWA Remcos. See what I'm saying? He had fucking... Yeah, and that was back then, too, but he probably had them still in the package, you know what I mean, which are worth so much money. So so he was like, listen, Jesus Christ, if you had them today, you'd be swimming. She could have made it all back just on those 4.
At least have $700 of your dollars.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. For it was in the package. So she claimed that, she said she was ignorant about selling wrestling figures online. That wasn't her form of business. You have to know what you're doing. And she needed money quickly to pay bills. So she didn't. She needed to just sell the shit. God, I wish I would have been on eBay that day. Fuck. So I had no money then, though. That would have been, it could have been $12. I would have been like, well, that's out of my price range. I didn't even have health insurance. It was a mess. So Judge Mathis ruled that she should have done her due diligence before accepting and selling the dolls.
Mathis.
And reduce the amount owed to her by the proceeds from the sale to $3,059. So said, yeah, but so he still has to pay the money back. She got that from the dolls. He has to pay the difference. But she said, well, Judge Mathis said, you're also a dipshit for not finding out how to do this correctly first.
Right. Why'd you sell the diamond ring for $50? You're an idiot.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't tell us. Yeah.
Your dumb fault. So March 23rd, 2019. Okay. He is scheduled to do an interview here, Nord is, with the Hannibal guy we talked about there at WrestleCon in New York City. But he can't make it there because he is in jail. So that's a problem. Yeah. He was also advertised to attend the Sunday's Mark Out at the Meadowlands wrestling/football fan convention in Secaucus, New Jersey. And but he is arrested for DUI and prohibited from leaving the state, so he can't make it. Yep. He was arrested in relation to the DUI. It was March 23rd, 2019. He was arrested and placed in custody. They said he had multiple traffic violations and unpaid tickets and warrants, and he was very much wanted by the cops. And then he gets pulled over, and he's also drunk. So that's not gonna work. He was arrested at 5:23 in the afternoon too.
Oh boy!
Not even 2 in the morning.
Afternoon beers.
Yep, and he faced 2 counts, a felony and a gross misdemeanor.
Yeah,
gross misdemeanor.
Gross, yeah.
Pretty good. Jake should have been charged with that for that match. He also was driving even though his license had been canceled, which because he had been rendered a danger to public safety.
Yeah, habitual
by the
offender
state.
of DUIs. Yeah,
yeah.
Oh my God! They took his license because he can't learn his lesson.
They literally said it's not suspended; it's canceled. We've canceled it.
I've never heard of that.
No, I've never heard that term before. We've canceled your license. It's just over.
It's not even revoked. It's literally it never existed.
You could go in there and they'd go, John, who? You don't. No paperwork. Sorry, and they'd close the window on you. You canceled. You're over. Your license is done.
His driving record said the N-word. It's canceled.
It's canceled. It's totally canceled. Like in a really public place.
Yeah.
So it's also noted that in the state of Minnesota, the aforementioned phenomenon, which is the being labeled a danger to public safety, like officially by the court, is when the driver is unable to safely control his vehicle without posing a significant danger to others, which he obviously is there. So he's got all sorts of problems. Also, the fact that he's been driving without a license and all that kind of shit. His bond was set at $60,000 due to the felony DUI charge, and he ends up getting bailed out eventually here, too. Because July 16th, 2019, he's going to be sentenced for some DUI arrests here. Jesus. And he's almost lucky that he gets a lot of... Let me tell you something. If you're going to commit a bunch of crimes, make sure you commit them all kind of in the same time period and get arrested once for all of them.
You can hammer them all together.
They will absolutely lump those into one thing.
Like a trash compactor. We'll make it one piece.
Yeah, whatever you've done it once, no matter how many times you've done it, because it's just easier that way. So it's just less paperwork. I don't know how it works. So he is placed on, because he was arrested on March 23rd, like we said. Oh, that was driving while intoxicated, operating a car under the influence of a controlled substance.
Oh, pills,
maybe
probably, right?
Aforementioned pills or crack.
Or crack,
Or crack, and with a canceled license. So he was arrested 6 times for driving after his license was initially revoked.
Oh, my.
Like completely canceled. The prosecution during all this is attempting to push for 4 years in prison for him right now.
And rightfully so.
Yeah, this is ridiculous. You can't be trusted.
I have zero sympathy for anybody that's got several DUIs in 2019. That's insane.
Fucking crazy. Yeah, you should know better by now. And it's just on your phone. Done. So they argue that he represents a significant public safety threat, and we should put him away. Now, Nord, his lawyer, said that he's been diagnosed with ALS.
Oh.
Which, I don't know, man, because I've seen interviews with him pretty recently, and he's still the same. I don't know what's going on the inside of him, but I don't know if that's true or not.
That's some
or
serious
if it's just
shit.
That's what I mean. ALS is the worst thing you could get. So the lawyer said he's been taking painkillers to deal with not only that, but also the damage on his body from being a wrestler for 15 years or something. So he said he's had physical and mental damage done to him. They said he's currently in treatment for his issues, and he's going to need to live in assisted living facilities for the rest of his life. He's at wrestling conventions all the time. He's not in assisted living facilities. He's totally out there.
How did he get somebody to say that for him?
Gave him a few buys, a lawyer.
Yeah.
So the judge said that the sentencing was difficult to decide on because he said, quote, "Life has handed you a lot of special things. On the other hand, it's taken away a lot of what makes you you." So he said, "I'm having a hard time. Come back in 3 months. And we'll find out how you're doing, and we'll sentence you again." How about that? Does that sound good? That sound good? And he said, "Yeah, that sounds okay." And so he comes back 3 months later. Judge tells him, "You, sir, may fuck off 5 years probation."
Oh,
nothing. In other words, he gave
what?
Nothing.
Not a thing.
Not a goddamn thing.
But he is on paper now, so if he fucks up, he gets 5 years?
I don't know. It works? 5 years probation. I don't know. It's not a suspended sentence with the probation, so who the fuck knows how it works? So March 6th, 2020, he's arrested on a DUI probation violation.
This is ridiculous.
Yep, he's arrested. This is in pursuant to a warrant related to a 2017 DUI arrest, a completely other fucking thing. He was arrested by warrant by deputies after he failed to show up at a court hearing, which resulted in his probation being violated.
Yeah, right.
So, they said that he was sent to court on March 8th. He denied violating his probation. He's released on zero bond and told, make sure you get to court next time, mister.
He's going to fucking kill somebody. What the shit, man?
We said it with Sonny.
Yes.
We said it repeatedly with Sonny. We said she's going to kill somebody's grandpa.
And she did exactly that.
Exactly killed somebody. That's my worst prediction ever. Or our worst prediction ever. That's the worst, but it happened.
That's going to happen again, man. It's going to happen in winter. That fucking road's going to be cold and slippery, and he's going to fucking murk a family.
He is. It's fucking wild. He keeps doing it. He said, it's crazy.
Jesus
but he
Christ.
Said he talks about this and it's canceled. One of his hearings gets canceled due to COVID. So it just gets delayed and delayed. Yeah. And he's a guy too. He doesn't hide that he's fucked up still. Right. He's not sober.
No.
And he says in an interview, he's talking about Jake the Snake now, and they're like, oh, yeah, Jake with DDP Yoga, and he's got a job with AEW, and he's doing so well. And John starts laughing, and he's like, he's not sober. He's like, I fucking know Jake. He goes, Jake, my ass, he's sober. He's like, there's no fucking way he's sober. He says that because John can't get sober, not because Jake can't get sober. It's kind of like, it's a thing the behavior panel guys I've talked about before. They have this thing where they always say, if you want to know what someone thinks about something, don't ask them what they think about it.
No.
If I want to know what you think about a fucking congressman, I don't go, Jimmy, what do you think about this congressman? Because you're going to hedge it. You're going to say whatever. You say, Jimmy, what do you think most people think about that congressman? You'll get their real thoughts every time. Most people think like I think, probably.
Right.
That's how that works. So you'll get a completely different answer.
What do you think
if you ask those...
the majority view is of that person? What's your view of that person?
Yeah. This guy he doesn't give a fuck, man. He just says that
he's had no consequences. Why should he? He's had zero consequences for his terrible behavior.
And when he thinks
dangerous shit.
He's projecting from Jake. And I don't know, Jake might not be. I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but John says, I mean, I can get sober for like a month. He goes, can't do much more than that. He goes, though. So he says, I mean, he probably gets sober for a month like I do, but I mean, that's it. That's all I can do is a month.
Oh my God.
So
but
he even says
the arrests were like a failure to control vehicle. That's dangerous levels of drinking and driving.
And pilling or doing whatever you're doing.
Whatever he's doing behind the wheel is so bad.
It's terrible. And he's openly saying, I mean, he goes to rehab for a year at a time and shit, and he's still openly saying, like, I mean, more than a month. Yeah, who can stay sober that long?
What the shit, man?
It's not good. He talks
I wanted
about
to move to Minnesota. Now I don't.
Watch out for John Nord there. Let's hope he ends up in fucking somewhere where he can't drive.
Puts it in a ditch by himself. Fuck.
Jesus Christ. He talks about also.
He's going to drink and drive, James. It's not over.
Oh, he's going to get fucked up and drive again. It's in my opinion, there's no way it's not going to happen because he keeps doing it for 20 years.
Lock him up. It's going to happen.
And he says he won't be sober and he's got to get places. So,
oh my God,
what are we supposed to do? Now, and by the way, if you look up his net worth, it says he's $1 million net worth everywhere. And I'm like, I don't think so, because I don't think he made that in his entire wrestling career, probably. Or, like honestly, or very on the edge of that. And then, or maybe he's
successful wholesaler.
He might do great though in the wholesale market. Who knows if he does amazing? He sells 100 at a time. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. He talks about all of his friends dying because somehow he's still alive. Well, all the guys he talked about, all those guys I talked about are all dead.
Yeah.
He said that he went to high school with, outside of Barry Darso, they're all fucking dead.
Wow.
He said, I've lost 4 dear friends before their time. You slip over that line and you can slip off into eternity, and you don't know exactly where that line is. He's trying to find it, is what I'm getting at here. Yeah. Nord is definitely towing at that line, trying to figure out where it is.
Oh, yeah.
Hope he gets his shit together before he finds it.
Takes everybody else's shit with him.
Yep. Can't get enough of John. Well, you can get his $700 Remco wrestling figure, or you can get his much cheaper WWE like remake one that are like probably $30 or something. It's pretty cool. Or you can find on eBay here, I found a signed promo picture of him for $24.99. And the signature, though, I don't know if it's really worth that. Let me show you this. Roll over here. Well, look what it is.
What the shit?
He just wrote Berzerker in print.
What is
and
that?
See the fur on his boots? See what I mean? He's got the whole.
like
his go over the toes, though. His are the whole
It's a whole
toes.
wrap,
Actually,
yeah.
it's a whole wrap thing going on, and his thing and his hair.
And he just just prints.
Berzerker. There you go. That is
That's
so
funny.
fucking weird. So that is what's out there for him, and that is John Nord, everybody. And
I'm
a
so
fun
scared.
wrestling episode. I know. And this one, like we said, we couldn't. I wish we could have found more on the actual DUI arrest. He gets, pulled over, and then he takes a swing at a cop and runs up an embankment and slips down and poops himself. I would have loved to get those details. But nobody had them. Like they just weren't anywhere to be found. So
we're going to get
I
a good
couldn't get
story
them.
soon, James.
But it's going to happen. I'm telling you this. Keep an eye out. I hate to say it because every time we say something like this shit on the show, something like that happens. It's almost like the show has some weird power over events. So
But
I don't want that
it's a
to
tale as old as
happen.
time, James, with guys like that, habitual offenders that are fucked up driving, they
Yeah.
don't learn their lesson until it's a lesson. You know what I mean?
Well, until it's physical damage to them, maybe it'll
Right.
do it. But they're not going to, or maybe if they're a half-decent person, if they actually kill somebody, then they'll go, wow, that's terrible that happened.
Until
But
a lock and key keeps them from doing it again.
Or that. But no, they will not put him away. And he just keeps saying he's sick. And it's a total, to me, like I said, I don't know his medical condition, but it seems very wrestling to me to show up in court and be like, he's got ALS, brother.
Right.
He's got the most ALS, and his hips are messed up. You've never seen a case of ALS like this before in his life. Holy shit, Lou Gehrig would bow before him and lick his fucking sweaty balls with the amount of ALS he has.
They would change it to the Berzerker.
Yeah, it should be John Nord fucking disease. That's what it should be. That's how much.
Christ.
Lou Gehrig's a pussy is what the doctor said. I don't know. So that's John
He died
Nord.
from it. He's still living with more.
That's fucking amazing.
Oh,
so, there's John Nord. He's insane. If you like that show, tell the world about it. Please
do.
get on whatever app you're listening on and tell everybody about the damn show because it helps a lot. You sons of bitches. No, I'm just kidding. Do that shit, though. It does help. All the apps have something like that. Head over to shutupandgivememurder.com. Get your tickets to live shows. Virtual live show also, but the whole slate of 2023 is opened up for Small Town Murder live shows, and they're all for sale. Those are the only ones we're doing, no added shows, and they're selling out super fast. So get your tickets right now. Next ones up are going to be May 5th and 6th in Detroit and Pittsburgh. Get those tickets fast. Pittsburgh's almost sold out. Detroit's
fast,
a bigger theater, but it's been moving, so get your tickets there. Don't miss out. We're going to have a lot of fun. And make sure to get your tickets for the April 20th virtual live show. 420. Oh, my God. Where do you see what I have in store for Jimmy? It is going to be amazing. And the story, too, is going to be wild. And it's just like a regular live show, but you're in your living room and we're doing a live show. So do that, and it's available for a week after the show, too, so you'll have access to it to do whatever you want with it for a week, or you can buy it during the week. Do whatever you got to do. That is all available at shutupandgivememurder.com. You want to follow the show on social media? Very easy, at Crime and Sports on Facebook and Twitter, at Small Town Murder on Instagram. Patreon, my goodness, patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all of your bonus stuff, and we have so much bonus stuff. Anybody $5 a month or above, there's so many episodes to binge on.
It's
honestly,
deep,
it's so deep for the bonus shit. And then every other week you get 2 new episodes, so they start stacking. There's a lot of them. This week, no different. What you're going to get, a couple of fun things here. Well, no, one's not so fun, but we'll make it fun. We're going to talk about, for Crime and Sports, we are going to talk about the murder of Bruiser Brody.
It's awful.
Who we talked all about in this episode, and Dark Side of the Ring did a tremendous job on theirs, and we'll talk about that and reference it, obviously, but then we'll talk about it how we talk about shit too, because theirs, guess what, it wasn't. No, it wasn't funny. That's one thing it wasn't. Not very funny, that episode.
I don't remember laughing.
Nope. We know how to make that shit funny, so we'll work that out. And then for Small Town Murders bonus, we're going to talk about haunted hotels. Ooh, that was going to be fun here. Yeah, I've stayed in a couple like that, so that'll be
I've been there,
fun shit. Yeah. So haunted hotels we'll talk about there. That's patreon.com/crime and sports. And you'll also get a shout out, which is going to happen in just a moment. And as well, keep an eye out for Your Stupid Opinions, our new show coming out soon. We had to get all of our business ducks in a row. It's coming out. Yeah. We'll give you a date pretty soon, but it's definitely happening. We've had people going, hey, is that still happening?
Sure
Absolutely
is.
happening. Your Stupid Opinions, where we make fun of people's stupid opinions. The internet is all reviews, and we're going to pick on them. So that said, people we don't want to pick on, Jimmy, hit me with the names of the people who would never, never, ever drive after their license has been canceled. Please, Jimmy, hit me with that list.
This week's executive producers are Jordan Bennett, Kelly Folsom, Mark Christie. Happy birthday, Mark. Art Dom Passion, I believe. Passion? It can't be Passion. It's only one S. Vanera? Is it Boone or Bun? I don't know. It's one of those. And Laura Rogers, thank you all so much for everything you do for us. You're fucking tremendous people, truly. Other producers this week are Rabbi Smolovich's brother Patrick, Bobo Brazil, Andrea D. Deno Photography, Andrea maybe? Dino, maybe Deno. I don't know. Liz Vasquez, Lindsay Chapom, Peyton Meadows, Hannah Just, Michael Avant, Janice Hill, Chris Davis, Kimberly Blanchett, Andrea Darnell, Dog Olaf Darnell. I'm terrible. David Lavely, Patricia Zudrowicz, Eaton, Aaron Greer, Isabel Alcazar, Connor Hanneman, Andrew Tester, Abigail Knoll, Alicia Schlehuber, Jerry Christ, or maybe Christ, who knows, Clint with no last name, Julianne Makusa, Reed Scott, Derek Payne, Robert Carroll, David Sanchez, Tatsuma Yamuka. Oh, boy. Yamuko. Bridget Shabes. Pat Murley. Evan Reed. Ariane. Yeah. Ariane Kamenetz. Brandon Letterman. Brian Wilkes. Chandler. This is fucking insane. Chandler Samashima. Joshua Hagan, Linda Wessels maybe, Rachel Bourne, Kim Bretz, Jessica Watkins, Corey with no last name, Lyle Hockey, Anisha McGoldrick, Beth with no last name, Cody Remington, Charlotte Taff, Kirsten Sprohar, Andrea Fantaconi, Wyatt with no last name, Fiona Taylor, Courtney Richmond, Kat Carlin, Jane Arnup, Keisha Alonzo, Brandon Coyle, Hebus, Pussyballs, Hubus.
Of course.
Stephanie Anson.
Of the Newport Pussyballs?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just making the Kennebunkport Pussyballs. Well, there's two different families, so I don't know which one it is.
Oh, boy. Catherine Connaughton, Benji Luke, I think, Katie Shaw, Catherine Cook, Rebecca Plenderleth, Whitney Harrington, Matt Biggs, Chrissa Sorensen, Jonathan Ward, Hamburglar King, John Kraus, Lauren, DeMarco, Heidi Meyer, Zach Howard, Paul A, Josh Farrell, Joshua Streben, Freckles 04, Connie Statham, like Jason. That's Jason's mom, Connie. Rachel
awesome.
Pallado, Jim Ace Martin, Chantel Blackmon, Andrew, it's probably Blackman, Andrew Medberry, Christina with no last name, Tara.
That's the only mistake you've made, I'm sure. It's fine.
Jonathan Miller, Mary Jo Rogers, Kelsey Nunley, Lisa Ann, not that one probably, Dandelions with no last name, Haukta, Bruno with no last name, Michelle Gardner, Sophia Fike, Steeler Girl Amy, Jonathan Bilger, damn it, Melissa Ganzaveld, Patrick Case, Caleb Ramsey, Samantha Corbron, LaDonna Jackson, Harley with no last name, Amanda Ciccarelli, I'll bet that's right, Jose Munoz.
Probably Cicerelli. It's probably Cicerelli, like the hockey player.
I want it to be Ciccarelli.
It might be. You never know. People pronounce things differently.
Kim Respress, Rolana with no last name, Michaela with no last name, Katie Ballantyne, Michael Papa, Kevin, Getterberg, Jedenberg, Christina Richardson, Anthony Pardone maybe, Samantha Nelson, Chrissy Anderson, Sue Crowley, Sean Farr, Michaela Louth, Adrian Smith, Jack Baker, Kyle Stretton maybe, Jen Fox, My Life 222, Kimberly Mortensen, Thachia, that can't be right, Sterling, Thacia maybe, Ashley and Aaron Kane, Alyssa Burns, Cammy Raver, Edna the Librarian, Katie Murphy, Donovan Kreft, Aaron Rich maybe, that's probably Rich, Kayla Rick, that's not right, David Hayes, Kevin Alt, Andrew Barry, Erasny, with no last name, Lance Sinova, Madison Earl, Terminus Barbecue, Ryan Adams, Samantha Brown, Mark Hanna, Mimi Basarge, Danielle Judge, Carly Smiley, Matt Suttle, Ann Swenson, Phil Sazenberry, Neil Roper, Mary Andres, Lily King, Luke Calloway, Kurt with no last name, Ray with no last name, Candace Raymer, Caitlin with no last name, Moss 134, Megan Teague, D. Peters, Christina Jones, Martin Marufo, Eric Booth, Raphael Ambrosio Casto, I think, Andrew Moss, Janet Hall, Evita Butel, Casey Fonsbeck, Ryan
Wow, you really ran the gamut on that one. Any one of those.
Ryan Silsky, Ash with no last name, A. Jones, Finn Rains, Bethany Johnson, Jacob Mendick, maybe? Mendick, probably Mendick. Dale
Is Dick
Major,
or Dyke in your name? Which one?
Mendick doesn't sound great either. Tori Dyke, Corey Diani Akins, Margaret Nobles, Sarah Elizabeth Ruddy, Shiloh Lake, Scarly maybe, Mead, Damian Woodland, Wildland Firefighter, thank you, Damian, Chris Aiken, Ozazawa, Brittany Midori, Patsy B, Jocelyn Meyer, Jennifer Holly, and all of our patrons. You're fantastic.
Thank you, everybody, so much from the bottom of our hearts.
Whatever
we appreciate all that you do for us, even though we'll never know your real name.
Whatever it is.
Or how it's said. But we do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we would love to know your real name or how it's said. But it's more fun to hear every possible version of it that
it's more fun to
possibly exist. If you want to follow us on social media or anything else that has to do with us or the show, you can find everything over at shutupandgivememurder.com. There's links to it all. Get in there, find us, keep following us, keep listening, because we'll be back over and over and over and over again live from the Crime and Sports Studios. We will see you next week.
Bye.
If you like crime and sports, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
A few miles from the glass spires of Midtown Atlanta lies the South River Forest. In 2021 and 2022, the woods became a home to activists from all over the country who gathered to stop the nearby construction of a massive new police training facility, nicknamed Cop City.
At approximately 9 o'clock this morning, as law enforcement was moving through various sectors of the property, an individual, without warning, shot a Georgia State Patrol trooper.
This is We Came to the Forest, a story about resistance.
The abolitionist mission isn't done until every prison is empty and shut down.
Love and fellowship.
It was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
And the lengths we'll go to protect the things we hold closest to our hearts. Follow We Came to the Forest on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can binge all episodes of We Came to the Forest early and ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus.